Good morning. I will now call the January 25th San Diego County Board of Supervisors regular meeting to order. Ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Before I call the roll, I would like to note for the record that all supervisors are participating via teleconference. As such, all votes will be handled by a roll call vote. With that, I will now call the roll. Supervisor Anderson.
Here.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Here.
Supervisor Desmond.
Here.
Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas here.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher here. We'll begin our meeting today with the invocation. The invocation will be delivered remotely by Rabbi Benji Fried, Temple Emmanuel. Rabbi, we welcome you and turn it over to you for the prayer.
Thank you so much. May the eternal source of blessing, May the eternal source of blessing bless this meeting of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors. May all our elected officials, their staff, and all the members of our county government be united in our shared mission to be of service to the people who entrusted us with the sacred obligations of leadership. Eternal One, guide our leaders with the light of your truth. Help them to distinguish between the path of light and righteousness and the path of division, falsehood, and injustice. When doubt and difference and discord cloud the way, help them to come together in shared purpose and in shared understanding. Eternal One, help our leaders meet this moment of challenge by being the models of citizenship that they hope to create in our society. Where there is indifference and lack of engagement with our local government, help them to inspire truth, trust, accountability, and action in our citizenry. Where there is divisiveness, prejudice, and intolerance in our society, help them to guide the way towards open-heartedness, equity, and harmony. Where there is brokenness and despair, help them to see the way towards solutions, towards empathy, and towards tikkun olam, the perfecting of our world. Eternal One, may you hold our leaders in the palm of your hand. May you inspire their hearts to find joy and fulfillment in the sacred work of making our local government function. May the work that this board engages in today be worthy of your blessing as our leaders strive to make our community and our world a better place. And together we say, Amen.
Thank you. The Pledge of Allegiance will be delivered by Becky Frost, 5th grade class at Logan Memorial Educational Campus. I want to say a special welcome to Ms. Frost, an incredible teacher, dedicated her life to teaching kids, including a few of my own. Ms. Frost, we welcome you, and we welcome your 5th graders to open our board meeting today with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you so much for having us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much to all the 5th graders. You all look great. Thank you for joining our meeting. We hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Thank you, Becky. We'll now proceed with our proclamations. I'm going to give the first proclamation honoring the Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego Centennial anniversary. Accepting this proclamation will be Brigadier General Jason Morris, Commanding General, Marine Corps Recruit Depot, Western Recruiting Region. 100 years ago, an incredibly consequential event in San Diego took place. It was December 1st, 1921, and the Marine Advanced Expeditionary Base, or Marine Corps Base San Diego, was put into commission by General Pendleton, giving the Marine Corps a permanent home here in San Diego. Initially serving a variety of functions, as America entered World War II, there was a significant need to increase the training for personnel who were preparing to enter that conflict. And by war's end, the number of American military personnel involved in the war was 16 million, but 660,000 of those were Marines, a significant number of them trained at Marine Corps Base San Diego. After the war, the focus of Marine Corps Base San Diego remained on making Marines. In 1948, the name was officially changed to Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego. In the 1970s, the training and oversight of recruiting was added with MCRD training all Marine Corps recruiters and training drill instructors for the Western region. During the 100 years of faithful service, more than 1.5 million young men and now just recently added young women from across the Western recruiting region have trained and gone through the incredibly difficult process of earning the title Marine at Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego in preparations to enter service, which has taken Marines across the world. Marine recruits have got to learn and exhibit honor, integrity, personal courage, and unyielding dedication to duty. Recruit training for the United States Marine Corps presently is a 13-week process. Recruits are cut off. They stand on the yellow footprints and get a jarring welcome to life in the Marine Corps. During training, drill instructors train recruits in a variety of subjects: weapons training, Marine Corps martial arts program, personal hygiene, cleanliness, close order drill, Marine Corps history, and so many other things. It obviously focuses on physical fitness. Recruits have to attain a minimum standard in their physical fitness test. Recruits also have to meet minimum combat-oriented swim qualifications, qualification in rifle marksmanship with the M16 service rifle, and pass a 54-hour simulated combat exercise known as the Crucible. I know a little bit about this process because in 1997, I had the honor of having that jarring welcome to the Marine Corps, standing on those yellow footprints with the sun in my eyes and a drill instructor in my face. 13 weeks later, I graduated in a day that you will forever remember, finishing the Crucible, having your drill instructor tell you, congratulations, Marine, the graduation with your family, and then entering service. I think I had an even more memorable experience just a few years ago when I watched my son walk across that same parade deck and graduate and enter service into the United States Marine Corps. And so in San Diego, we are a military community. It is a part of our culture. It is a part of our history. It is still the single largest driver of our economy. And a rich part of all of that is not only the Marine Corps, but the Marine Corps Recruit Depot. And I'm happy to report that after 100 years, the high standards and esprit de corps remain strong. I had the great honor just a few short weeks ago of joining Brigadier General Jason Morris for a morning colors and graduation. And it's my honor to welcome the General here with us today and to officially be it proclaimed by myself and all the members of the San Diego County Board of Supervisors on this 25th day of January 2022 that we hereby commend Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego for its steadfast service, leadership, and commitment to national security and the well-being of our county residents, and do hereby declare this day to be Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego Day throughout San Diego County. General Morris, we welcome you and are honored to have you join us this morning, and I will turn the floor to you, sir.
Chair Fletcher, thanks so much for the welcome and the opening. To Supervisor Vargas, Supervisor Anderson, Supervisor Lawson-Raymer, Supervisor Desmond, and of course, Chair Fletcher. Thanks so much for this proclamation that I hold so proudly and display so proudly up on one of the bulkheads of our depot. That's the wall outside my office. But on behalf of the millions of Marine sailors and their families who have served aboard Marine Corps Recruit Depot San Diego, we're really truly heartfelt, appreciative of the Centennial Proclamation from the Board of Supervisors. We also recognize Chair Fletcher's leadership and the fact that he is a fellow Marine of ours, but also as well as the sincere efforts of every member of the board to support our military community. We realize the necessity for a mutually beneficial relationship between the San Diego community and the depot. We live amongst you. We are part of this great community, and your depot is an essential component of our national security, responsible for producing a little over half of all of the Marines that graduate from recruit training every year and provide those basic skills that they will require to continue their training and become the most ready, relevant, capable military service that's able to respond to complex security challenges that we face as a nation. And we can't do that. We cannot do our jobs without your support. So our productive and dedicated military and family members add value throughout San Diego County, but we really rely upon our Board of Supervisors to help us achieve our goals and live in amongst you. And we are fully integrated and live and work amongst you as colleagues and as neighbors, and we're inextricably linked. So I want to thank you for your support to the military members, not just of the Recruit Depot and your Marines, but also our other sailors and Coast Guardsmen and other service members that are in the area. And we really look forward to another century of serving side by side with the city and county of San Diego. Thanks, Chair Fletcher.
Thank you, General. And I was trying to get my hair cut before you joined us today. I couldn't get it in. I am going after the board meeting today, so I'll look a little bit more in tune, probably around 1700 today. So. Well,
Chair, you know we can solve your problem.
Yeah, no. I'm not getting my hair cut there again. No. I did that a few times. General, we welcome you, and as always, our county is here. If you need anything, if there's anything we can do to help you and your staff. With everything you need as a county enterprise, we are here. We appreciate what the Marine Corps means to San Diego, and in particular what the depot means to San Diego. And please don't ever hesitate to reach out if there's anything at all we can do to be of assistance.
Thank you, Chair. Really appreciate the opportunity today. Thank you.
Thank you, General. The second proclamation will be given by Vice Chair Nora Vargas, honoring January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. And I will turn it over to Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. More than 20 years ago, the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, TVPA of 2000, established the United States commitment to combating human trafficking domestically and internationally. In 2010, by proclamation, President Obama declared January the National Slavery and Human Trafficking Prevention Month, and every year since, each president has followed that tradition. Today, I want to recognize, in honor of that tradition, the San Diego Organizing Project and Free to Thrive and the important work that they've done in our region by providing holistic and trauma-informed legal services to human trafficking survivors and their advocacy to end this inhumane practice. Human trafficking is an issue that impacts all of San Diego County, especially our South Bay communities in District 1. According to the FBI, San Diego is ranked among the most impacted regions in the United States for human trafficking. As many as 8,000 victims every year. Trafficking victims are amongst the most vulnerable and marginalized members of our communities, including runaways and homeless youth, or youth living in foster care. Sadly, victims often share a history of child abuse or domestic violence. Survivors and victims need legal services to get a fresh start, and our communities deserve to be educated on the warning signs of human trafficking and what we all need to do when we see those warning signs. Free to Thrive is the first and only nonprofit organization in San Diego providing those services exclusively to victims and survivors. Their impact is critical and difficult to measure, but we want to highlight the incredible work that they've been doing on this issue, as well as the San Diego Organizing Project that has been organizing throughout the county to help the expansion of educational programs on human trafficking in faith-based congregations and spaces, as well as in schools, and to offer those services in different languages. It is actually the San Diego Organizing Project's initiative that inspired me to introduce the board letter that is going to come before you today, item number 18, that really focuses on providing trauma-informed care for our victims of human trafficking and their families. And so I really want to thank Denora Reina Gutierrez with SDOP and Jamie Beck with Free to Thrive and the amazing staff and volunteers at both organizations for their leadership as we recognize the month of January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month in the County of San Diego, and we will be lighting the county in blue in that honor. Thank you. And I'd like to welcome them now.
Thank you, Vice Chair Supervisor Vargas. Good morning, Dinora Reina Gutierrez, Executive Director with San Diego Organizing Project. And on behalf of the Contreras Alonso family, Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church, and the SDOP Board of Directors, it is such an honor to receive this proclamation. In 2020, Gabriel Contreras and Beatriz Alonso turned to their parish for support and guidance in the case of their missing daughter. Their child became one of the 8,000 victims a year who in our region are trafficked right in our own neighborhoods. The story of Gabriel's daughter, Jessica, is the motivation of our work around human trafficking and ensuring that children in our region are safe and healthy. So on behalf of the Contreras Alonso family, we have tremendous gratitude for the many organizations, the leadership of Father Pepe, Father Marty from Our Lady of Guadalupe Catholic Church, and Supervisor Vargas and her team for their commitment to create a community-driven and informed policy. We are excited for the introduction of today's board letter to enhance human trafficking protection and commit to remain a key partner on this issue. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Supervisor Vargas. My name is Jamie Beck, and I'm the President and Managing Attorney of Free to Thrive. It was my distinct honor to start Free to Thrive 5 years ago to support human trafficking survivors. I started Free to Thrive after working with one survivor who had been trafficked at the age of 16. She came from a loving two-parent home from a middle-class family in San Diego, and she didn't have many of the vulnerabilities that we often see among our clients at Free to Thrive. Her vulnerability was being a 16-year-old girl who fell in love with a boy who exploited her. Since that time, I've been doing this work alongside of my amazing staff, board, volunteers, and we work every day to help human trafficking survivors address the legal barriers that they face as a result of their trafficking, just like the survivor I met so many years ago, who inspired me to do this work. Free to Thrive would not exist without the San Diego County Board of Supervisors and our District Attorney, Summer Steffen, who helped us get started from the very beginning, and we've worked alongside since the beginning. It has been an incredible honor to do this work, and I'm so grateful to Vice Chair Vargas and the entire board for introducing the board letter later at today's meeting to continue this work alongside those of us who are doing the work on the ground every day. Thank you so much for this honor, and thank you to everybody who supports our work, particularly our staff who's doing this work day in and day out with survivors. This work is hard, it is emotionally exhausting, but it is such a privilege to do it, and we're just grateful for the opportunity. So thank you so much for honoring us and highlighting this issue.
All right, thank you all. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the great work. Our final proclamation will be given by Supervisor Tara Lawson-Remer and Supervisor Desmond, honoring North County COVID-19 outreach partners and neighborhood healthcare. And accepting this proclamation will be Dr. Rakesh Patel.
I'm not sure who's first, but I guess I'll start. So it's my honor to join my colleague Supervisor Desmond to recognize our North County partners who have helped to distribute COVID-19 vaccinations. Their collective outreach work has protected countless families during this pandemic. As we all know, a top-down approach does not always work in vaccination campaigns. We have to rely on trusted community partners to spread the word. We are lucky to have many grassroots partners helping us in North County, including Neighborhood Healthcare, Universidad Popular, MAC, San Ysidro Health, True Care, Vista Community Clinic, Champions for Health, and the Employee Rights Center. Each of these groups have been valuable partners in COVID-19 outreach efforts and advocating for needed resources in our region. We are pleased to be joined by Dr. Patel, CEO of Neighborhood Healthcare. Neighborhood Healthcare, in collaboration with community partners, has helped to provide vaccines on a weekly basis at the Escondido Live Well Center. So far, they've provided over 103,000 vaccines. But just let's be clear, this work is a partnership. So I also want to thank County Health and Human Services for quarterbacking many of these efforts. We can all do our part to protect our community, and I am so grateful for the efforts of Neighborhood Healthcare to amplify that impact in Escondido. So I'll now pass the floor to my colleague, Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you very much, Supervisor Lawson-Remer. It is an absolute honor to represent now the great city of Escondido, and I welcome our new and continued partnerships here in North County. And then today, we honor our North County health partners for their relentless efforts in the battle against COVID-19. I also want to thank Neighborhood Healthcare and for all of the participating in the community-based organizations for their teamwork and time at many vaccination and wellness events that they have hosted. And as Supervisor Lawson-Remer mentioned, we also want to give a shout out to Universidad Popular, who I recognized last December for their contributions holding vaccination events in North County to underserved communities. So Neighborhood Health and Universidad Popular have it right, and they provide a tremendous service in North County. And this weekend, county is going to be hosting a wellness fair at the Escondido Live Well Center on Saturday, January 30th. And I encourage you all to help to attend and get out the word. And I also want to thank staff and HHSA and the nurses and everyone else that's come out and helped out in these vaccination events, mostly on the weekends, serving the underserved communities. So the County of San Diego is committed to recognizing and honoring those organizations that are dedicated to the best ideals of public service. And neighborhood healthcare and our North County community partners are such worthy organizations. So on behalf of my office and Supervisor Lawson Reamer's office, our chair and the entire Board of Supervisors, it's our honor to present you all today with this proclamation honoring neighborhood healthcare and North County partners, and to hereby declare this day to be Neighborhood Healthcare Day throughout San Diego County. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dr. Patel if you'd like to make a few remarks, and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much, County Supervisors. I just want to begin by, just as a family physician and part of the medical community, just thanking all of you for this leadership during these tough times. And I'm especially proud of this proclamation today because it really speaks to partnership and the power of partnership. When we started giving vaccines initially, we did this on our own. We held clinics at our clinical sites. We worked with some of the local colleges. But when we joined this partnership and started working with Universidad Popular, MAC, the county, and the other health centers, really our efforts skyrocketed. And we actually were able to reach those communities that we really were desperately trying to reach. Since May of 21, we've seen an increase of about 25% in vaccination rates. And these were some of the census tracts with the lowest percentage of vaccinations rates. And through this partnership, we've been able to do a lot. It's come at significant challenges for our organization and our partners during this time, but we view this work as critical to the work that we do. And in some ways, it's selfish because if people get vaccinated, we see less of them being sick. And so overall, we need this to prevent disease instead of continue to treat disease. For our staff has been extremely dedicated. We spent about 15,000 hours giving vaccines at a cost of about $900,000 for these 103,000 vaccines, which is a number that continues to grow. This is work that we have put is tied to our mission and our vision of really a healthy and happy community for all. I'll leave you with a personal story just for how this has impacted my family. I have two kids, a 15-year-old and 17-year-old, and unfortunately, both of them had COVID over the holidays. The 17-year-old was lucky. He had 2 shots and a booster. The 15-year-old had 2 shots, but the boosters weren't approved at that time. When I watched these 2 kids, the experience of both of them was so different. The 17-year-old had a stuffy nose and congestion, and my daughter actually lost taste, was short of breath, and now she's about 4 weeks out. And just this weekend, she was at her Torrey Pines dance competition. She comes off the stage, Dad, she goes, before this was easy, I just felt like I ran a 5K, still recovering from the ill effects of COVID. I can't stress enough that we are super happy to be able to provide this service to the community. This is our mission. This is what we do. I'm super excited that we have these great partners who are helping us do this work. And we are making a difference, and we continue to do that. If you haven't got vaccinated or a booster yet, please do. Go on to My Turn. We're on there, and we can help you get the vaccines that you need. Once again, many, many thanks to the county supervisors, especially to Supervisor Desmond and Lawson Remer, for your work in helping us and supporting us in this work in the North County. We are making a difference. Continue to support us, and we'll get through this together. At Neighborhood, we believe we are better together, and there's no doubt in this case, we definitely are. Thank you for the time.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Dr. Patel. We all appreciate Supervisors Desmond and Lawson Remer recognizing you and your group, and I want you to know the whole county appreciates all the work that you've done and all the work of our healthcare workforce in general as we've gone through this difficult time. So it is much appreciated, and we're very grateful. And thank you for joining us at the board meeting today. Thank you. Next on the agenda is non-agendized public communication. This is an opportunity for the public to address the board on subject matters within the board's jurisdiction, but items which are not on today's agenda. The only action we may take as a board is a referral to the Chief Administrative Officer. Reminder, according to Rule 4A, members of the public that are non-English speaking and need interpretation assistance will get additional time to facilitate for translation. Pursuant to the rules of procedure, we will have 10 speakers for non-agendized public communication. Any remaining speakers for non-agendized public communication will be heard at the close of today's meeting. I'll ask the clerk to please call forward the first 10 speakers.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 22 requests to speak on matters not listed on the agenda. For those that requested to speak, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. I would remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller. Again, please state your name for the audio record before you begin your comments.
Miss Allison.
Thank you.
I don't know if you all could hear me. But...
Yes, you may
Hello?
proceed.
Good morning. So I am calling to comment about my frustration with the San Diego County Housing Authority. I have been reaching out to them about my disabled son's subsidy for 4 months. Up until yesterday in the parking lot with no privacy, I met with a Nicholas Martinez and a Miss Ramirez. I really need for the board to have someone get involved in this situation because they continuously discriminate against my disabled son. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Kevin Stevenson.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Hi. Stochastic terrorism. Noun. The public demonization of a person or group resulting in the incitement of a violent act which is statistically probable but whose specifics cannot be predicted. That is the dictionary definition of stochastic terrorism, and I would like to note that we have seen a recurring pattern of some rather threatening and animated comments in previous meetings. One example I can think of is Louis Sardell bringing up his Second Amendment rights, even though they have nothing to do with the context of a Board of Supervisors meeting. I can't not see that as stochastic terrorism. And I would like to remind everyone that the day after the dipstick with dreads known as Matt Baker shouted, "You are obsolete, you are tyrants, you are pathetic, you are grasping at straws," Sheriff Fletcher's house caught on fire. And given that it happened around 4 a.m. in the morning, it's really, really suspicious. And look, there needs to be an investigation. We need to get the facts out, and we need to make sure that we know what truly happened. But given the suspicious nature of the fire, and given that it happened the day after Sheriff Fletcher was voted as chair for another year, I can't not see it as an act of arson. Now, I only bring this up because the last meeting we did see a lot of unhinged, we did hear a lot of unhinged comments. Matt Baker wasn't the only one. But I bring this up, it's not about any individual person. I'm bringing this up because there are a lot of people across the country and, oh, I'm sorry. I'm out of time.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Yes, hi. This is Amy Zamudio, Director of Homeless Outreach with Housing for the Homeless. We are kindly asking that our medically compromised seniors please be allowed into the current vacant rooms at the Comfort Inn and the Fairfield Inn. That program is extended until the end of March, and we have medically fragile seniors that could be in those rooms. That program was such a success, it's now being relocated to Wisconsin. So while we had a successful program here, our seniors are being abandoned. We have many seniors that are being discharged from the hospitals back to the streets. I have a very long list. If you could not provide access into the county hotel rooms, we are kindly asking for hotel vouchers for our fragile seniors while they continue to connect to services and search for housing options. The discharging from the hospital ERs is not on the hospital staff. It is, you're impeding on our staff by not providing reasonable accommodations for the seniors. Please hear us. Please reach out to us. Amy Zamudio at Housing for the Homeless. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller. The next caller, Ellen Nash. Your device might be muted. We're unable to hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Hello, good morning, Board of Supervisors. Again, yes, this is Ellen Nash, Chair of the San Diego Chapter of BAPAC, Black American Political Association of California, and also the Chair of the Leon Williams Human Relations Commission of San Diego County. It was brought to my attention actually by Amy Zaludo that you just heard from, who was the CEO of the Homeless for Homeless over the holidays in regards to this group of recuperating medically compromised seniors. There seems to be about up to 100. That list is fluid. But they also include veterans who are being discharged from the hospital to the streets. This practice is inhumane. We met with the county Health and Human Services staff, Barbara Jimenez, and thank you, Helen, CAO, also Dejana Beck and others just yesterday. And this particular group, it appears that there is no housing solution for this group of seniors because it's outside of COVID. This is an immediate crisis, and I am begging you, compelling that in support of Amy's request that you open up the county hotels to these seniors so that they can receive ongoing case management services and not back to the streets to die or to end up in emergency again. I'm very emotional about this. I have an 89-year-old mother, and I cannot imagine that she would not have the kinds of comfort that she has, but her option would only be to go to the streets. So I'm asking you, until we come up with a solution, we put these people in these county hotels.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Barbara Gordon, thank you for letting me speak today. I said, I am a public health educator, and I have been following the Board of Supervisors as you look to implement a marijuana ordinance. My work with young adults has me concerned with the high-potency marijuana products that can contain up to 99% THC that are being sold and manufactured at the marijuana businesses here in San Diego. These concentrates have devastating effects on users, especially their mental health, leading to depression, psychosis, and schizophrenia. Colorado saw the devastation of these high-potency THC concentrates had on their young people's mental health. So Colorado passed a bill capping the percentage of THC concentrates that could be sold. I applaud their efforts to save their young adults' mental health. The California Public Health recently indicated the most vulnerable demographics are our 21 to 24-year-olds who are experiencing the sharpest increase in marijuana use. And this is such an extremely vulnerable time for our young adults as they are acquiring the education skills they need to launch into a career choice and setting patterns of a lifelong good decision making. As the county looks, as you look to implement a marijuana ordinances, I urge the board to follow Colorado's example and consider regulating or capping the percentage of THC concentrates as part of your marijuana ordinance in the county. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
My name is Diane Grace. I'm a health prevention educator, but most importantly, I'm a mother and grandmother who has attended parent group meetings for many years because of my love for children. I am here today to ask that you hear the voices of those of us who live in the backcountry. We did not ask for marijuana businesses and wonder why that fact seems to be ignored. The county already has 5 permitted marijuana retail outlets with extensive delivery networks. Whatever obligation you, as the Board of Supervisors, feel you have to marijuana business operators and their moneyed interests have already been met. Public health and parents were concerned with a recent UCSD study of 700 legal recreational cannabis business found that 1/3 of them had marijuana products that purposely appealed to children. Could I respectfully ask the county's code enforcement check the 5 existing marijuana businesses for those items as part of an annual compliance check? Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Supervisors. Kathleen Lippitt here. From a public health perspective, it's beyond unconscionable that this board majority continues to double down on harmful as well as ineffective policies. There's incontrovertible evidence that these policies will risk the future of adults, young adults, and adolescents. Ironically, you have access to local experts, medical practitioners, researchers, and practitioners who would gladly provide you with appropriate direction. But instead, you've chosen to follow the drug industry specialists who are experts on maximizing addiction, undermining treatment, and compromising those challenged by their recovery efforts. The epidemic of acute transient psychotic symptoms has been documented in our local emergency rooms and in every other state where marijuana legalization has taken place. The brain, more than any other part of the body, is the repository of our humanity, and psychoactive drugs have been previously scheduled and restricted because of their potential to harm the human brain and permanently disrupt behavior. But brain diseases, substance abuse disorders are among the most lamentable forms of human anguish because they are the most preventable. It is deplorable the way that you have described, the way that your willingness to put addiction industry profiteers before health, safety, and welfare and quality of life for the residents that you made an oath to protect. Harm reduction policies will never get ahead of prevention. And ignoring prevention and embracing harm reduction policies and needle exchanges is exactly what the industry wants you to do and exactly what you have done. It seems that, thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Mary D. here, not unhinged, just a freedom-loving citizen. It is time to declare COVID-19 to be endemic, something we simply learn to live with like the flu, and to fully reopen San Diego and all of California back to pre-pandemic norms. This includes opening meetings to in-person public attendance to all citizens and not restricting employment by vaccination status, particularly in light that it has been firmly established that the vaccinated can get, transmit, and even die from COVID. Also, I would like to see the county start putting emphasis on preventives like exercise, nutrition, and to implement a proactive vitamin D public outreach campaign. Numerous studies have documented the robust modulation abilities on both the innate and the adaptive immune systems. Instead of mandating a vaccine that statistics from Denmark, Israel, and Australia show is having little effect on slowing COVID, you should be urging vitamin D supplementation. I publicly call on Dr. Wooten and the HHS to issue a directive for all hospitalized COVID patients to have their vitamin D levels tested. Many studies corroborate the vitamin D deficiency to severe disease outcomes, and yet we are ignoring collecting this vital data. End the declared state of emergency and reopen San Diego fully now. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Audra. Hello, tyrants. So just interesting that you guys always want to, applaud and bring light to how many people you vaccinated and how great you're doing when you're totally ignoring the fact that people are dying from these vaccines. They're being severe, and you never want to address that. It's despicable because you guys, that you should be stopping these things from happening. But, Kevin Stevenson, you want to call in and say things that, there should be an investigation into Nathan's house fire, which is definitely true because he probably started it himself. Okay, you're sitting here and you guys want, because there's dissenters to your agenda, you want to sit and act like we're going to come to your house, Nathan, and start a fire. That's a bit ridiculous. But yeah, that helps you look good like, oh, poor me, these people are so crazy, when it's only because it goes against your agenda. Like, if we said things that were in line with that, you would never allow that to happen to those people. But instead, you pay people like Kevin to call in and spew lies just to make you guys seemingly look good. But the fact is, you probably had a camera at your house. You know that nobody came and started it. And you need to probably make that right with the people, because 10 ABC News put out that basically insinuating that several of us were the ones to start the fire. And that is ridiculous. So, if you're going to play games like that, that's really dangerous, because none of us have ever threatened your life, threatened your children, or your wife. So the fact that you guys are okay with that, being insinuated is pretty disgusting. It needs to change. But you guys also, your days are numbered in those seats, so keep it warm.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the final caller this morning.
Good morning. This is Peggy Walker. Supervisor Lawson-Remer said in a recent newsletter, we need to do more to tackle big issues, calling for data-driven approaches to address things like homelessness, substance use, and mental health at their core. I applaud this excellent priority. Data-driven approaches to determine outcomes of marijuana commercialization should be included, because research shows marijuana is often at the core of those big issues. Hard data collected from law enforcement, medical treatment communities, and the coroner should show us how many DUI injuries and deaths, suicides, poison control calls, ER visits, and mental health treatments are marijuana related, for example, or how much violent crime, spousal and child abuse, addiction, psychosis, and homelessness is marijuana related, and the social and economic costs. We do have county data citing 39 ER marijuana-related emissions daily. That's over 1,000 a month. Considering ER diagnosis and treatment costs run exorbitantly high, but patients often can't pay, we should ask, what does the data say is the cost to hospitals and ultimately the social welfare system? What is the cost of families and society for addiction and mental health treatment? Law enforcement and medical and mental health professionals tell us marijuana is a big issue getting bigger. As this board pushes policy promoting countywide marijuana use and commercialization. Data-driven analysis will inform us about the community costs and consequences. Thank you.
Thank you. For the remaining callers that requested to speak on matters not listed on the agenda, please hang up and call back at the conclusion of the session. That concludes non-agenda public communication this morning, Chair Fletcher.
All right, thank you. Interesting as always. We're going to go back to Supervisor Desmond real quick. He's got a little clarification and some information to share around a wellness event that was discussed earlier. Supervisor Desmond? I think you're muted, Supervisor.
Okay.
There you go. We got you now.
All right, thank you. Appreciate it. During the proclamation, I gave the wrong date for the wellness fair. That's going to be in Escondido this weekend at the Live Well Center. It's going to be on Sunday, January 30th. I think I said Saturday, but it's Sunday, January 30th, the wellness fair at the Escondido Live Well Center. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Supervisor. Next on our agenda is approval of the statement of proceedings minutes for the regular meeting, January 11th, 2022. Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So happy to make a motion.
Second.
All right. We've got a motion by Supervisor Lawson-Remer, seconded by Vice Chair Vargas. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
We're now going to proceed with the formation of the consent calendar. Members of the public will have the opportunity to comment on the consent calendar after we go through supervisors and see if any items will be moved. And so let me start with Supervisor Anderson. Are there any items you wish pulled for discussion or any comments on items that are on the consent calendar that you wish to make?
Thank you, Chairman Fletcher. I'd like to pull item 4 for the purposes of voting against it.
Okay, Supervisor Anderson, you can register your no vote or you can pull it and move it to a discussion. I just want to be clear. You can do either one. Which one? Are you registering a no vote on consent or are you pulling it to have us individually take it up for discussion?
If you don't pull it, I know the history on the board has been to say that you oppose it, then vote for it. I want my vote to be reflected as voting against it.
Let me ask the clerk or maybe counsel if a no vote can actually be recorded in the record. And Supervisor, I just either way is fine. I just want to make sure we get some clarity in this.
Sure.
Chair Fletcher, if I may, you can do a separate vote without pulling it off consent on any particular item. So it is possible to do that.
Okay. So Supervisor Anderson, I think what we'll do.
I don't need to pull it at that point.
Yeah. So what we'll do.
I asked about this before, it still reflects as a I vote in the consent.
No,
so
here's what we're gonna do, Supervisor. We will vote on the consent calendar minus item 4, and then we will have a standalone vote on item 4.
Perfect.
Does that work? And counsel, that's totally fine. Let me clarify with counsel that we can do that. One vote for everything and then a separate vote for item 4, but still in the consent part of our agenda. Is that correct?
Yes, you can, Chair Fletcher.
Okay, perfect. All right. Thank you. Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Hi, thank you so much. So I do want to pull one item for discussion, which is item 5, the food assistance item. And then if nobody is going to pull item 2, and item 9, I have a few remarks on those. But we could wait to see if my colleagues pull item 2 and 9. If they don't, then I'd like to make remarks on those items.
Okay, Supervisor Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I got a comment on item 1 and 2, the helihydrants. Item 1, I want to thank staff for the update and for the future goals of this program. I'm very excited to move forward and launch additional helihydrants throughout San Diego County, particularly in the unincorporated area. Anything we can do to aid in more frequent water drops on wildfires, in the backcountry will absolutely net more successful outcomes. The goal is always to reduce the forward rate of spread of fires to our more populated areas and protect homes and businesses of all residents in San Diego County. I want to thank staff, Chief Meacham, Jeff Collins, Robert Spanbauer, and our entire San Diego County Fire Protection District and CAL FIRE teams for your work to make San Diego firefighting capabilities even stronger. So I look forward to the establishment of these hydrants in the future. And item 2, this is, I'll just make quick remarks. I'm not pulling it, but the Sheriff's Department law enforcement agreement with the 9 contract cities. As a former mayor of San Marcos for 12 years, that is, San Marcos has always been a sheriff's contract city since 1963. And I know how important this agreement is between the county and the municipalities in San Diego County. So as we get to item 17 in the regular agenda, I look forward to discussing this issue with greater detail, but I'm glad to see this item 2 going forward. And I just want to verify that Supervisor Anderson is pulling item 4.
He's not pulling it from consent. What we're going to do, Supervisor Desmond, is we will take 2 votes on the consent calendar, consent agenda. One will be all of the items that are not pulled for discussion, and then the second will be a second vote on item 4. So we'll have a standalone vote on item 4, but it'll be a part of the consent part of our agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. I have comments on item number 5, but I'll wait for the discussion. However, I do want to just comment on item number 12. I want to thank our CAO and county staff for bringing this ordinance amendment before us today. Adding Juneteenth as a county observed holiday to commemorate the effective end of slavery in the United States is truly a historic moment for San Diego County. Upon this dais, we often talk about our fight for equity and justice, and there is no greater testament to that than the history behind Juneteenth, where freedom for many enslaved people happened 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation was signed. Memorializing the history of slavery will help us acknowledge all the interconnected issues, past and present, that manifest in our education, healthcare, and government system, to name a few. If we strive for an equitable society, we must accurately acknowledge the complex history of the people that built this nation, were deprived of their own freedom, and commit to continue addressing and removing systemic barriers. It is with this in mind, I'm proud San Diego County is leading in our region by officially observing June 19th. This is a proud moment for us, and it's a first step as we move forward to repair the challenges impacts that we've had to our African American community. So thank you very much. Proud to support this item. Thank you, Vice Chair.
I don't have any items to pull. I want to make some brief comments on item 1 and item 7. I want to thank Supervisor Desmond for bringing and initiating this effort around hydrants, and I appreciate the staff for working on the feasibility of placing more of these. You know, at its crux, we're talking about how we protect communities from wildfires, and we know because of drought, because of increased weather conditions, because of everything we're facing, that there is an increased risk. And although San Diego County has been spared very severe wildfires, not all, but very severe ones that we've seen across the rest of California, we know that we remain at risk. And I think hydrants can provide another tool for our firefighters to use during wildfires, a consistent and stable source of water. And to ensure our region is ready to respond, I think additional investments as we look forward in fire prevention and response have got to be a part of our collective agenda as we move forward. And so I certainly appreciate this work and look forward to continued movement on this topic as we go forward in the future. And on item 7, I just want to highlight, I was really proud when I first got here as a supervisor. I think one of my first actions in January of 2019 was to get our Live Well bus out and in the community to give us more opportunities to service people. Our what we call Live Well on Wheels, or Well on Wheels WOW buses, provide direct access to a variety of services. And this is an opportunity where we can take the services directly to folks who need them. It doesn't require you to come to a county facility or one of our providers. Nearly 23,000 San Diego County residents have received a variety of services because of the investment we made in this bus. In 2021 alone, they were utilized for over 233 activities or events. And the action before us today is just to expand, to get some more mobile vehicles in order to provide more assistance. Again, the ability to go out into the community and serve folks who are there. They have equipment and spaces. They can do preventive dental screenings. They can do screenings for HIVs. They can do other type of respond to crisis and disasters and emergencies. You can set them up for community fairs and events. But again, this is us taking county government services directly into the community, and very excited to see those. Let me go back to Supervisor Lawson Remer, who I believe wanted to make comments on item 2 and 9.
I did. Thank you so much. First of all, on item 2, I just want to say, the safety of our communities is obviously a major priority. And I live in Encinitas, which is also a sheriff's city. And I'm so grateful to sheriffs that do promote safety in my home community. We've had contracts with our smaller cities since as early as 1959. And I've gotten a lot of feedback and comments and input on this item, actually. And I do encourage mayors and city managers to ensure that the structure of this contract does everything possible to help ensure that all of our cities are getting the best outcomes for their communities. And, just would want to reiterate for my support for that as this contract negotiations move forward. On item 9, I just want to take a moment because this is extremely personal for me. As a mom, I know how much of a challenge childcare is for families across our county. Just over the last many months, I feel like every day, every 3 days, I get another call from her preschool, and she's pulled out of preschool because of COVID, and it is just so difficult for so many families. So I want to take a moment to highlight a few recommendations from this report. I think first of all, it's important to acknowledge that as a whole, industry wages are inadequate. And we absolutely must uplift our care economy by treating childcare as a career field with wages and benefits that reflect the level of experience and training of providers and the value added to our communities from investments in early childhood education. We do not have sufficient facilities in San Diego County to serve the diversity of our region. I do like the innovation presented in this report that looks at integration with housing developments, public-private partnerships, utilizing county facilities, and after-school facilities. We have $16 million in new funding from the American Rescue Plan available to address some of these recommendations. So I very much appreciate the way that staff have already started to think about how to address the needs of our community with this funding. I'm very interested, very interested in the progress of this needs assessment and plan, and would like to ask staff to share via memo their communications annually rather than waiting until the conclusion of the 5-year plan. There is no question that investments in childcare and access to quality, affordable childcare in our region is a huge challenge. And I think for many working families, it would not be an exaggeration to say that it is indeed a crisis. And this is a crisis that I am glad that we are moving forward to addressing. And I want to make sure that our community stays apprised of our progress. So thank you so much. And I think with that, I could make a motion to approve the consent calendar minus the item 4 that Supervisor Desmond and Supervisor Anderson indicated that they would be opposing.
Okay, so we're going to go to public comment, but before we do that, just so we know what we're voting on. So we're going to have 2 votes when we come back from public comment. The first will be the items on consent minus items 4 and 5. Item 4 will be a standalone vote on consent. Item 5 will be pulled for discussion. So all of the remaining items, minus 4 and 5, will be in the first motion when we come back. And there's a motion by Supervisor Lawson-Remer, which I will second. We will vote on that when we come back. The second vote we will take when we come back will be on item number 4. And I'll make a motion to approve item 4. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All right. Now, so we'll have 2 votes when we come back. We'll come back and do the first one. When we're done with that, and we'll do the second one, which will be item 4. So for Supervisors Anderson and Desmond, again, the first one will be all of the items on consent minus 4 and 5. After that, then we'll vote on item 4, and then we will move into discussion items. So with this, let me ask the clerk to call forward our speakers on the consent calendar. Again, if you're calling in to speak on item 5, you're going to want to call back in when we take up that item. But all of the remaining item speakers should speak to at this point.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 34 requests to speak on matters on the consent agenda. Any members of the public that requested to speak on items on the consent agenda, with the exception of item 5, since that item will be pulled for discussion, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. You will have 2 minutes to address the board. We'll ask you to please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller.
Consuelo. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. May proceed.
Okay, I just wanted to comment how you all act like you care about people's health and all these wellness things happening. And yet, when people are begging you at the podium and at these meetings, constantly just wanting a choice and not wanting to lose their jobs and be mandated it, you know, it's like, where are you there? When people are giving you facts and data, doctors, nurses, you know, why do you guys minimize what the people are saying? Why don't you listen? This is getting so old. And people need to wake up. They really do. These supervisors, these people are not leaders. They don't care. They just want to give you handouts. They don't care. They don't care about anybody except for the agenda and the narrative. I'm so sick of calling in. I'm sick of this entire charade. It really is. I'm done.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Dean. First, I wanted to say that with your new phone system, it seems like there's a problem because it hung up on me about 7 or 8 times before I got a chance to speak. So I would recommend that you take a look at it because I'm probably not the only one who's having those problems. I just wanted to say that we need to start opening up the board meetings to the general public and allowing people to speak in person because it's getting more and more difficult to speak. Also, we need to stop with all these COVID restrictions and mandates because nurses and police officers are getting fired, and now we're having a shortage of that, and we can no longer do these kinds of things and harm the public health. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Yolanda Perez, San Diego County Child Care and Development Planning Council Chairperson. Good morning, County Board of Supervisors, and I thank you for your serious interest and concern regarding the important topic of child care in San Diego. The San Diego County Child Care Plan, developed by your advisory San Diego County Child Care and Development Planning Council, is part of item number 9. Here's some background on the plan, which has been already approved by the San Diego County Superintendent of Schools. Recognizing that children and families have different needs, a committee was established which is comprised of child care members from 5 different categories, which included consumers, providers, public agencies, community representatives, and discretionary members. The San Diego County Child Care Plan focuses on 4 different goals. The design mobilizes public and private resources to serve and meet the diverse needs of all San Diego children, families, and early childhood education professionals. The plan is rooted in the need for a sustainable, comprehensive early childhood education and care system that values and justly compensates all who serve the children and families. Goal number 1 and goal number 2 require some engagement at the state level, with goal number 1 being child care recovery, and although current state and county efforts have been positively impactful, programs still continue to close and are unable to keep up with the high cost of their business property or rent, and there is a countywide scarcity of child care workers. Leading to goal number 2, which is workforce and rate reform. Again, while county support for rate reform is recognized, and we thank you for that, the plan recommendation is to further invest in a workforce that is resilient and sustainable through training and professional development. The return on this investment is providers with the skills and resources to provide quality care and child care business owners learning efficient and effective business practices. Goal number 3 is facilities, and goal number 4 are access, which are goals that the County Board of Supervisors already have active engagement.
Thank you.
Very much.
We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hello, my name is John Becker, and I'm calling about item number 4. I am requesting that you do not vote to ban the sale of 80% lower gun parts. I happen to live in Fallbrook, and it's not fair that thousands of people that happen to live in the unincorporated areas of the county get stripped of their Second Amendment rights. Many of us enjoy gunsmithing as a hobby, and we shouldn't be made criminals overnight by your vote for this. It's not a gun problem, it's a crime problem. Prosecute the people that commit crimes, not law-abiding citizens. We already have state laws on the books for serializing guns and for safe storage of guns. The sheriff's department's response time in rural areas of the county is often not sufficient enough, and people should be able to protect themselves quickly. And lastly, people have been building guns since they were invented. I respectfully request you vote no on this anti-constitutional measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Yes, Michael Waters. My comments are on Agenda 4. I concur with the previous caller. Our government has a long-standing history of supporting do-it-yourselfers and all kinds of registered products, whether that be, experimental airplanes, making your own cars. There's always a process for them getting registered and legally permitted. Guns have been no exceptions. You're taking, unfair action on hobbyists around the county. There's already a statewide process for serializing these weapons built by hobbyists. This is not the problem. The problem is the revolving door that the Democrats have created. That is the problem with crime in this county and this state. Also, it is not the problem with guns on the street. The vast majority of guns that on the street that are used in crime are straw man purchases. This bill does nothing to do that. Also, you're conflating the non-serialized guns with guns that have been confiscated by the police and wind up back on the streets with their serial numbers removed. That you are conflating the two. The hobbyist guns that are do-it-yourselfers that are found on the street is less than 1% of the total guns that are rounded up by cops confiscating them from criminals. This is a ridiculous bill that is going to get challenged and is going to cause the county millions of dollars spent in legal fees. This will go all the way to the Supreme Court. I guarantee you there will be a group of firearm enthusiasts that take this all the way. Thank you for hearing my comments.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. I'm Jill Cooper with Never Again, California. And to clarify, this ordinance requires serial numbers only on firearms and on unfinished frames and receivers, not on other gun parts such as the trigger. Someone who wants to legally build a gun from precursor parts would be required to have a serial number on only the frame and the receiver. Right now, neither federal or state law requires a serial number for unfinished frames and receivers, so the county's action today is needed. Why do we need serial numbers on guns? Why should we pass this ordinance regulating ghost guns? The reason, ghost guns are a danger to our community, especially as we see an uptick in crime and in mental health crises. Those who own guns and those who don't should agree that we need serial numbers on guns as a means of tracking background checks, which state law requires. Why? Because certain people just should not be allowed to own firearms. domestic abusers, gun traffickers, criminals, and people young and old who pose a danger to others or themselves. But ghost guns and the internet make it so easy to have a gun. In half an hour with just a few tools, anyone can build a fully functional, unregulated, unserialized, untraceable gun, and anyone can buy one on the street. What will they do with it? It's simple. If you can't pass a background check, you shouldn't be able to build a gun or buy a gun. County supervisors, please defend our public safety and pass this ordinance again. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Lawrence Springer, chair of the San Diego Libertarian Party. I'm speaking on agenda item 4. The opposition to this should be nothing more than this is a violation of the Second Amendment. Of course, this board doesn't recognize basic human rights. So instead, let me explain that this does nothing. What power does this board have to stop me from using a 3D printer? What power does this board have to stop me from using a CNC machine and a block of aluminum? What will you do? Outlaw those next? I can go to Home Depot and have a working firearm by dinner. There's nothing you can do about it. You're going to ban Home Depot now? All the bans in the world will not stop a criminal. Tell me, how are bans working when it comes to the drug war? You want to stop gun violence? Start with ending the drug war in San Diego County first. Do not create criminals out of innocent people. For everyone listening, consider the San Diego Libertarian Party under new management. We're here to stop and get these 5 tyrants out of office. Join us at the SDLP.org and on Facebook. We will bring freedom to San Diego for everyone. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
My name is Roseanne Sharp. I reside in Del Mar, California. I'm speaking to item number 4. I'm from Never Again, CA. To oppose this ordinance on the basis it is a hobby is disingenuous. Hobbyists love to fly drones. Model airplanes and drones weighing more than a half a pound must be registered with the FAA. If assembling a ghost gun is truly a hobby, no one should object to requiring these gun parts to have serial numbers too. This ordinance is not taking away the right to have a hobby. It simply says, just like other hobbies, there are safety rules, and these rules include registration of your product, and the serial number must be provided by the manufacturer. The existing law in California is when the kit is assembled, you must register and affix a metal placard with a serial number. That is not going to change under this ordinance. What is going to change is who is responsible for affixing the registration placard. Is anyone surprised that not a single ghost gun recovered by the police had a metal placard attached? This is the existing law that the NRA and associates say is sufficient. Wrong. Today's ordinance is smart supply-side regulation. The burden of registration and affixing the placard will now fall on the big fish, the manufacturer and the distributor of the kit, who may suddenly find that the risk of selling ghost gun kits to anyone with access to the internet are no longer worth it. Ghost guns are not a hobby for the 13-year-old boy in Georgia who was ordering ghost gun kits on the internet, then assembling them and trafficking them to gangs. In December 2021, this 13-year-old 80-pound boy shot and killed his 14-year-old sister in a botched ghost gun sale deal with one of the guns he had assembled. It was not a hobby for the 16-year-old LA student who killed 2 students and injured 3 more, nor was it a hobby for the student who injured another student in Montgomery County yesterday. Please vote.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now hear from the next caller.
Audra. So I love it how you guys put all these in one item so that nobody can address anything. First of all, you guys want to make us out to be criminals all the time. It's innocent people that you want to do that with. If we dissent from your agenda, we're criminal. If, we come and address things to you, we're criminals and we start fires. If we want to have a gun to protect ourselves, you want to make us feel like criminals when we're doing something wrong. As far as I know, and everybody else should, that the Second Amendment allows us to have a gun, and actually we can conceal and carry. There's any law that goes against that is null and void. So the fact that you guys want to take any way possible for the people to protect themselves while implementing the sheriff to ensure that happens is very terrifying, and people need to wake up, because I mean there are camps that they have that are available, and word is that they want the unvaccinated in there. So I mean, if we can't protect ourselves in our own home and our own families, that's an exact good way for them to come in and take us away, vaccinate us, do whatever they want. We need to be paying more attention. They have these mobile medical units that are now laboratories that it's going to go to us. I've been telling you guys since last year that these mobile medical units are terrifying. You want us to get used to it so that we get used to your new way of living. And if you really cared about child care or their development, what you would do is make sure that Dr. Death, a.k.a. Wilma Wooten, doesn't implement vaccines for kids 6 months and older. But you guys are already doing it to children 5 to 11 and plus. So you're also making them wear masks, so they can't even learn. And Tara, your own daughter has a learning disability, yet you'll put her in a mask and wonder why. It's things like this that is abuse to children that you guys need to be paying attention to. And you do need to open up these meetings, but the reason why you won't is because you don't want to hear from the people. You want to make it harder for us to call in. That way you can, oh, whoops, we didn't get your call. Yeah, and there goes my time.
Thank you. We'll hear from the next caller.
Hi, my name is Kara Smith. I'm Secretary of the San Diego Libertarian Party, calling in to oppose item number 4. I can see up on your screen there, it says this is for the consent calendar. All agenda items listed under this section are considered to be routine. It does seem like it's routine for you guys to try to take away our rights. I don't know if you're familiar with the Second Amendment, but it does guarantee citizens the right to bear arms and say the government shall not infringe upon it. I don't care if it's for a hobby or to protect yourself against tyranny. This is a right that we have that you guys need to stop trying to infringe on. In fact, vote no, and San Diego should become a Second Amendment sanctuary county. Again, vote no on item 4. Thank you.
Thank you. Now I hear from the next caller.
My name is Therese Heimer. I am here today representing the coalition San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention. I live in District 4. We support the call for a county ghost gun and safe storage ordinance, item 4. The Ghost Guns Ordinance does not duplicate state law. Unlike the county ordinance, state law does not require that an unfinished frame or receiver be serialized before it is sold. And the state's existing procedures, which place the responsibility for background checks and serialization onto the person putting ghost gun parts together, are not only largely ignored, they do not preclude a local ordinance such as the county's. The Safe Storage Ordinance is also an expansion of existing state law, not a duplication. State law only addresses firearms being stored where a child is likely to gain access or a person prohibited from possessing firearms is present. In contrast, the county ordinance requires safe storage for all firearm owners at all times. In addition, state law only requires a firearm to be stored away from children in a location that a reasonable person would believe to be secure. This has led to parents storing firearms in unsecure locations, such as on top of a water heater. In contrast, the county ordinance requires storage in a locked container or with a trigger lock. There is also no Second Amendment issue here. Ghost gun component parts are not currently considered firearms, and there is not a ban on assembled guns so long as they follow the law and get serialized, so the Second Amendment is not violated. And the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld the constitutionality of a similar safe storage law in the case Jackson versus City and County of San Francisco in 2014. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
This is Carol Landale, a San Diegans for Gun Violence Prevention, speaking to item 4. This ordinance does not prevent a hobbyist from building a gun. It simply requires unfinished frames and receivers to have serial numbers, and for the hobbyist to pass a background check. These are common sense requirements. The main point of this ordinance is that unfinished frames and receivers will now have serial numbers before they can be legally sold in the county, and buyers will be required to pass a background check. This will hold sellers, manufacturers, buyers accountable, and it will prevent unserialized parts from being sold, something that the state law does not yet address. Hobbyists who currently have unserialized frames and receivers will have 90 days to bring their parts into compliance. 90 days. They can use the California Department of Justice system to get a background check, and they can obtain their serial numbers during that 90-day grace period. This will not affect hobbyists, legal hobbyists who want to buy a gun. And then they will then be in full compliance with state and county laws. With the information campaign that will accompany this ordinance, law-abiding sellers and hobbyists will be doing the right thing. They'll follow the law, they'll make our county safer, and it will make it more difficult for the criminal element to get their hands on ghost guns. We need a yes vote on item 4.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Honorable Supervisors, I'm Jennifer Lawnbaum from Never Again, California. I think everyone can agree that suicides, murders, and mass shootings have increased and that we need to stop it. New data from the CDC shows the rate of gun deaths has increased by 29% in the last 6 years. Gun manufacturers, gun sellers, the NRA, and their followers appear at meetings like this, but they never offer up any solutions that actually work. They just repeat no more gun laws year after year as more and more people die. Does it seem as ludicrous to you as it does to me that their response to measures to try to reduce gun violence is always more guns, more automatic guns, more untraceable guns, easier to get guns? It would be funny if it wasn't so deadly. The CDC counted over 45,000 people dead from guns in 2020. That's a 14% jump in just 1 year, the largest increase ever on record. Let's open our eyes, people. The gun lobby's way is making things worse, not better. Every man, woman, and child is much more in danger of being shot dead now than just last year. We have to start somewhere to stop this everywhere. Simple laws like securing guns in such a way that they cannot be taken and used by others to kill themselves or someone else, and requiring gun sellers to serialize and permit every gun make it more difficult for felons, underage kids, and anyone else with suicidal or criminal intent to obtain a gun. It's a no-brainer way to start taking action to reduce gun tragedies, and it doesn't infringe on anyone's right to own a gun or even 100 guns. There is no doubt that if you enact this law, you will save someone's life, and it's not a stretch to say that it just might be your own child's life that you save. What could be a greater accomplishment in the world's eyes than preventing the violent death of another human being? Please vote yes for these simple rules around gun ownership. Thank you, Supervisors.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller.
Yes, I'm Cornelius Bowser. I'm pastor of Charity Apostolic Church, also a member of the San Diego for Gun Violence Prevention Coalition. And I'm also a former gang member of the notorious and violent street gang West Coast Crips, First Crip gang in San Diego. And I've seen a lot of gun violence up close and personal. I'm here to speak in favor of the Ghost Gun and Safe Storage Ordinance. SANDAG reported from 2019 to 2020, there was a 38% increase in homicides involving firearms. In 2020, 57% of the homicides were used with a firearm, and it was blacks and Latinos that were more likely to be killed by a firearm than another weapon. Our black and brown youth from the ages of 18 to 28 are being slaughtered in our streets by ghost guns bought and assembled by people with evil intentions. Also, firearms that are legally owned by law-abiding citizens are being stolen from them and used in my community to murder, rob, and cause mayhem. Research and data supports the fact that half of gun owners do not safely store their guns. Between 2011 and 2016, the Trace linked about 1,000 stolen firearms to crimes committed in the city and county of San Diego. Those include more than 24 murders, attempted murders, 16 robberies, 90 instances of assault and battery, 115 drug-related crimes, and more than 250 related offenses, including felon possession of firearms. Additionally, the Trace reports that between 2007 and 2015, 3,318 firearms were reported stolen in San Diego. That is enough guns to arm every documented gang member in San Diego, which in 2021, there was 2,400 documented gang members. The Ghost Gun and Safe Storage Ordinance will protect our youth, our children, and young adults and our community from the tragedy of gun violence. I ask the County Board of Supervisors to please support the Ghost Gun Safe Storage Ordinance in San Diego County. God bless you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller.
Jennifer Stewart. Good morning. My name is Jennifer Stewart, and I'm here providing public comment as the chair of the Child Care Plan Committee of the San Diego Child Care Planning Council. We respectfully request your approval on item number 9 on the consent calendar today, related to the Health and Human Services appointment of the 2022 San Diego County Child Care and Development Planning Council membership roster, the 2021 needs assessment, the Child Care Plan, and the bylaws. The Child Care and Development Planning Council recognizes that the board has already begun working on some of the important items addressed in the Child Care Plan, and we thank you. But there are more concerns that need your support. Today, we would like to highlight 2 goals which have been identified that we know the board can begin to make progress towards, which would identify the lack and cost of early learning facilities and families' access to quality child care. Some of the objectives at the forefront of this plan highlight the need for all new building plans to include space for childcare, county-level investment in public and private partnerships, and Live Well San Diego family-friendly incentives. We're asking employers to be recognized for providing family-friendly practices, such as predictable and flexible work schedules, generous paid time off, childcare benefits, and the inclusion of dependent and childcare and flexible spending accounts. There's an urgent need to have an integrated process that includes early education at the base level planning for the development of new housing, job centers, and transportation lines. Addressing these items now will have a direct impact on the level of access families have to quality early learning care and services. For every dollar invested in quality childcare, the economy sees back a minimum of $6. We look forward to continuing this conversation and invite you and your staff to have a more in-depth conversation at our March Child Care and Development Planning Council meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on the consent items 1 through 4 and 6 through 16.
All right, thank you to all the callers who called in. What we're going to do first is going to be all of the items that are on the consent calendar minus items 4 and 5. 5 has been moved for discussion. We will take that up next, and 4 will be a standalone vote. So we have a motion by Supervisor Lawson-Remer, seconded by myself to approve the remaining items on consent minus items 4 and 5. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. Before I do that, I would like to note for the record that we received an errata for item 15 that withdraws the appointment to the North County Cemetery District. With that, Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer? Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
That motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
Now we're going to go to item 4. I have a standalone vote on item 4, a motion by myself, second by Vice Chair Vargas. Before we vote briefly, I didn't make comments on this item earlier. I do want to point out people disagree, and that's fair on what steps and actions we should be taking. The reason this was initiated was a concern from law enforcement about the increasing number of ghost guns that are found on our street and some of the inadequacy in what they're doing. I appreciate hobbyists, and I think law-abiding hobbyists will have no problem complying with this. As was pointed out, it's just serial numbers on the frame and receiver, which is infinitely doable, and we will be happy to work with folks who are interested in how we can facilitate them continuing their hobbying in a responsible and lawful way. And I'm committed to continuing to do that. And then would offer the group that came in and want to talk about ending the drug war, would love to work with you on that. We may not agree on this one, but I would agree the war on drugs has been an abysmal failure. And I think that's an area of agreement we have. No one action we take is gonna satisfy or solve everything, but I think this is a reasonable effort we can take that is just designed to try and make our communities a little bit safer and make sure that firearms end up in the hands of individuals who are supposed to have them, allowed to have them. And I think you can see reasonable actions like this. It's not an infringement on the Second Amendment, but within the scope of what is allowed. And so with that, we have a motion and a second. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll again. We are voting on item 4.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson.
A libertarian, no.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Yes.
Supervisor Desmond.
No.
Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas, yes.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
That motion passes with Supervisor Anderson and Supervisor Desmond voting no, all other supervisors being present and voting aye.
All right, we're going to move into our discussion items, which we have before us today. The first item up is going to be item 5, approval of actions related to ARPA funds for food assistance components, sustainable, equitable, local food sourcing programs, policy, and other related items. I'm really excited about this item. A particular area of focus for myself is the area around community gardens. I think the investment that we're making here, a $7 million investment in building out community gardens, can have a tremendous and positive impact for our community and for what we're doing. It can help get people fresh produce. It's a wonderful engagement tool, seniors and others staying active. We see so many kids now who participate in programs around community gardens at their school and the ability to bring that home. It also has the opportunity not only to provide quality, fresh produce in our neighborhood, it can have an environmental benefit of not having to truck things and ship things and go to grocery stores and buy them. And so all around, I think this is a wonderful investment we can make. And I look forward to working with county staff, San Diego Foundation, and other partners to see this effort. Obviously, there's more in this item than just the community gardens component. But I wanted to speak to that and address that and put a motion on the table to approve the recommendations in item 7. And then we will hear from Vice Chair Vargas and then Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. I want to first and foremost thank county staff for bringing this proposal forward. Since taking office last year, one of my priorities has been, I've heard loud and clear from my constituents is the need for increased access to healthy food and achieve food sovereignty in our county. In 2019, prior to the pandemic, an estimated 25% of people in San Diego County were nutritious insecure. And as a result of the pandemic, this figure has grown to upwards 33%, or 1 in 3 people are facing nutrition insecurity. Much like the pandemic, nutrition insecurity disproportionately impacts our low-income communities and communities of color, and that was true prior to the pandemic. Without a doubt, the COVID-19 pandemic has exacerbated the issue of food access, and it is clear that we need to invest and support our communities now more than ever. It's going to take a holistic approach and require both innovative short and long-term solutions, as well as collaboration and partnerships with other stakeholders to address this issue. Last week, I was thrilled that I was able to bring together community members. We had over 45 organizations along with county staff, including Rick Wayne and Dr. Wooten for a food access roundtable. And during this roundtable, we had a fruitful discussion on current challenges and barriers our communities are facing to access healthy food. We also received feedback on opportunities and strategies we can consider to continue tackling this issue. I want to acknowledge both the county and the safety net for our residents and many local community organizations that have stepped up to the plate during these challenging times to meet the increased needs for our communities and the many policy recommendations that they have made, academic and both on the ground recommendations. But as I mentioned, we need to provide more support, and I'm glad to see that the proposal before us today to allocate ARPA funding to community food production projects, such as community gardens and food forests, will help bring more healthy food options that are easily accessible to the communities most in need. Thank you for all the work. I'm going to be supporting staff recommendation. And so with that, I would like to second the motion.
All right, thank you, Vice Chair Vargas. We'll go to Supervisor Lawson-Remer and then Supervisor Anderson.
Thank you so much. I know staff is going to have a presentation, which I'm eager to see, and I think I might have some comments and questions after that. But just to kick us off, I really want to echo my colleagues, Vice Chair Vargas and Chair Fletcher, on their support on this item. I'm really proud to serve on a board where so many of my colleagues share my values and my commitment to sustainability, local nutrition, supporting our local communities, and really addressing some of the root causes of access to healthy foods and access to sustainable food sources that we have faced in San Diego for such a long time. No, representing pieces of North County, this is a region that has long been agricultural. And one of the things I'm most excited about in the move forward with this item is the work that we're doing to support local sustainable food sources and sourcing, so that we can really help our local businesses, as well as in investing in solutions to climate change, sustainability, and better nutrition. So again, I will have some questions and I think some comments after the board presentation, but I just am very excited to see this brought forward.
All right, Supervisor Anderson. We also have public speakers on the side.
Thank you, Chairman Fletcher. You know, we are very fortunate to live in San Diego. I grew up in Michigan, and we would have this discussion for 4 months of the year. The rest of the time, we'd be frozen in. So if we can't get it done, then nobody can. So it's really important that we take this step. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Let me ask county staff if they have any presentation or comments that they would like to make on this item.
Chair, good morning, members of the board. I have just I can provide a brief update. Today's action requests your board to authorize and approve the recommendations, as has been stated, related to the spending plan for the food assistance component of your board's framework for the ARPA funds. There's been tremendous work in following the board's framework for the future by the agency team, working very closely with our colleagues in the Land Use Environment Group and Public Safety Group, and many community-based partners to develop this program design, and we'll continue this collaborative approach throughout the presentation. Now, first, to implement the sustainable, equitable, and local food sourcing program, it's in alignment with our First County budget equity tool, and the program will be implemented with the support of technical assistance, very importantly, by a consultant through a competitive solicitation. Second is to develop a sustainable, equitable, and local food sourcing board policy that will be returning to your board within the next 24 months for adoption. So we have several other recommendations listed in the items, but those are the major ones. Chair, we're available for any questions the board may have.
Thank you. Let me ask the clerk to call forward. I think we have 12 speakers in this item. Why don't we hear from the public speakers, and then we'll come back to the board for any discussion or deliberation.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 12 requests to speak by phone. Also note for the record that we received 33 e-comments, 27 in favor, and 1 neutral. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 5, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. When it is your turn to speak, you'll be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. Please begin by stating your name for the audio record, and I'll remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller.
Hi, I'm Barbara Gates. I'm the founding director of a local eco-focused nutrition education for kids. We're called Lean and Green Kids. I want to make sure you can hear me.
We can hear you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So as I said, we're all about sustainability is a cornerstone of our education programs for kids, and we also work with school food professionals to bring more sustainable, nutritious food to kids in the school cafeteria. I want to, speak specifically on page 1 of the American Rescue Plan Act document that I read, the Food System Sustainability and Equity Procurement Guidelines Project aims to create a policy to guide sustainable, equitable, and local food sourcing, which is very, very exciting. What I want to speak to is that this type of project has already been created by the Good Food Purchasing Program, which is an incredible program being used by counties and school districts already. So it serves as an incredible model, and I hope, and I've heard the words partnerships and collaborations a lot in the meeting today, and I just think that it's really important for the county to partner and collaborate with experts on this specific issue. What's really incredible about the Good Food Purchasing project is they have 5 core values of sustainability, local, equity, and I hear on page 3 of the document, you talk a lot about nutrition, but there's nothing in the title of this project that speaks to nutrition. Nutrition is one of the 5 pillars of the Good Purchasing Project. I hope you'll consider collaboration.
Thank you very much. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hi, my name is Ellie Brown. I am the co-executive director of San Diego Food System Alliance. And first, I want to thank the county and the supervisors for the allocation of funding for food issues. It's very exciting. Today, my comments are specifically on the purchasing piece, not the community food production projects for $7 million, which we support as is. On behalf of a diverse coalition, we are writing to request an amendment in the ARPA food procurement spending recommendation to explicitly call out the nationally recognized good food purchasing framework. Specific requests include adoption of a good food purchasing policy and a purchasing program countywide, and a sole sourcing contract with the Center for Good Food Purchasing for at least 3 years. Over the last 4 years, a diverse coalition has come together to promote the good food purchasing framework in San Diego County due to its rigorous process and comprehensive nature, prioritizing all 5 values that we'd like to see: health, local economy, sustainability, animal welfare, and labor. Good Food Purchasing is a data-driven program with a uniform annual assessment against national standards that has been created by the involvement of hundreds of organizations. It is the only program of this caliber in the country. And while this funding is exciting, we are concerned about the vagueness of the current recommendations that don't point to this best practice framework. Additionally, we are also concerned about the RFP process, which may also end up dictating the rigor of the program. The Center for Good Food Purchasing has been a well-respected partner for communities and a proven evaluator and technical assistance contractor for a Good Food Purchasing program of municipal governments nationally, including counties, Alameda, San Francisco, LA, Cook, and cities, New York, Chicago, LA, Austin, and Denver. All of these jurisdictions have selected the Center for Good Food Purchasing as a sole sourcing contractor without question. Thank you for considering this amendment to explicitly call out Good Food Purchasing as the part of the procurement item.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller. For the next caller, we can't hear you. Your device might be muted.
Oh, Consuelo.
Please proceed.
Vaccinated. We were promised the vaccination.
Hold on.
Governments have gone to great lengths to get people vaccinated. We were promised the vaccinations will be a game changer. And
Hold on, I'm going to stop and ask if you have a comment you would like to make on agenda item 5. This item is not about vaccines. Your comments are off topic. If you have a comment around community gardens and item 5, we would love to hear from you. Okay.
Spill billions and billions of dollars.
Ask the clerk to please go to the next speaker.
Thank you. Go to the next caller.
Hello, good morning, supervisors. My name is John Millspaw. I'm a resident of District 3 and Director of Education of Farm Forward, a national nonprofit dedicated to changing the way our nation eats and farms animals. First, I want to thank Supervisor Lawson-Remer for her leadership and the staff from County HHSA for their work on these proposals. While we are grateful for the current ARPA food procurement spending recommendation, we are concerned by the lack of mention of animal welfare and valued workforce and the vagueness of the values that the proposal does promote. I'm here to join the speakers before me in requesting an amendment in the proposal to explicitly adopt the nationally recognized Good Food Purchasing Program, or GFPP, and commit to its 5 value areas: nutrition, local economies, sustainability, animal welfare, and valued workforce, each of which, in contrast to the current proposal, are well defined in GFPP and have associated spelled out standards. My organization has worked with many cities and school districts to implement GFPP. GFPP has been adopted by 14 communities across the country with 60 institutions and over $1.1 billion in food spend impacted. Notable adopters of GFPP include Cook County, San Francisco City and County, and Alameda County, cities like Los Angeles, Boston, and Chicago, and school districts, including San Diego County's own Escondido Union and Oceanside Unified. So I strongly, respectfully urge you to amend the procurement proposal to adopt the GFPP framework with an annual mechanism for implementation and at least a 3-year contracting commitment with the Center for Good Food Purchasing as the sole sourcing contractor. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Supervisors. I'm Reverend Jennifer Channon. I'm a resident of District 3, and I'm the Executive Director of the Better Food Foundation, which is a national nonprofit committed to building a food system that is healthy, equitable, humane, and environmentally sustainable. Like others, I'm delighted to see San Diego County leading in sustainable food procurement, as this is the issue that my nonprofit advocates for. So thank you to the County HHSA for developing this proposal and to Supervisor Lawson Reamer for her leadership. Also, like others, I'm here to request an amendment to the proposal that we be more specific about which standards we'll adopt and to endorse the Good Food Purchasing Program as a model that provides this specificity. The current proposal is encouraging, but it's vague about which stakeholders will benefit and which values will be upheld. So specifying the GFPP will ensure that the plan reflects diverse stakeholders, including our workforce, and including shifting food away from animal products towards plant-based food. I've learned that in order to be effective, proposals like these need to define what sustainability means and provide measurable standards. And the GFPP does this with standards developed by many nationally recognized organizations. In my own nonprofit work, I've seen how success depends on implementation, and so I strongly encourage you to amend the proposal to adopt the GFPP framework and to include an annual mechanism for implementation and at least a 3-year contracting commitment with the GFPP as the sole sourcing contractor. Thank you for listening to my comments.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Sean Martinez. Good morning, board. My name is Sean Martinez. I'm a proud B1 resident, but here to speak on behalf of the Teamsters Union, which represents more than 100,000 workers throughout the food supply chain in North America. Businesses involved in the public food supply chain are often the worst in the industry. In this country, public institutions like schools, which are the largest institutional food purchasers, are generally underfunded, and populations served by public entities such as low-income public school students, prisoners, and the aging are generally not prioritized. Public policy often requires or encourages contracts to be awarded to the lowest bidder with little to no regard to the massive impacts these contracts have on our economy and our communities. I've been involved with the Good Food Purchasing Program since 2015 when my union organized 180 truck drivers who deliver food to school districts throughout California. The GFPP was already in place at LA Unified School District in the city of LA, and the policy played a key role in our ability to secure life-changing wage increases and other improvements to the livelihoods of those workers. I stayed involved in GFPP efforts because it's the only policy of its kind that takes a holistic approach to good public food procurement and promotes workers' rights as part of that approach. I was excited when I learned the county would be moving an initiative regarding public food procurement, but a bit dismayed when I learned the details. I would, as other callers have, liked to encourage the county to amend its proposal and adopt the Good Food Purchasing Program and commit to all 5 of its value categories, including valued workforce. I also encourage the county to enter into a sole sourcing contract of at least 3 years with the Center for Good Food Purchasing, which is the only entity with the experience necessary to make the goals of this proposal a reality. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I'll now hear from our next caller.
Audra, hello. How funny outside I sit and it says the noblest motive is the public good. That's why we're out here. What are you guys doing? What is your motive? Anyway, so it's quite interesting, Tara, climate change. You had to bring that into this, didn't you? That's hilarious. And you're using ARPA funds to give them to HHS. What's new? You guys love to keep us in an emergency so you can, delegate these funds to whomever you see fit, like, FEMA, fire, sheriff, whatever, and now it's for food. And it's to give us healthy options and sustainable food sources. So, the funny thing is that there's a seed shortage. So people can't even grow their own food. You want to claim there's a water shortage when there's endless amounts of water. People should be able to keep their crops, not say people in Fallbrook, where was the avocado capital of the world, had to change to oranges because of the water. And if you want us to have sustainable food sources, then you would allow them to make the cost to feed your own animals that people may want to butcher themselves because they know it's more healthy. It's making it impossible because the food prices are so outrageous. And if you really wanted to give people healthy food options, you wouldn't let chemicals or poisons be in the food. You wouldn't allow aborted fetal cells to be used as or a charter. You guys can make these things go away, but yet you want to have your hands in every step of our lives. It's quite funny, oh, you need to know how to eat nutritious? We'll tell you, and we're going to provide that for you. So, yeah, I think you guys need to get out of everybody's business because you sit there and want to have your hand in every aspect of our lives. We need to be dependent upon you guys, and that is the furthest from the truth. We should have no dependency on you.
Thank you. And Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right. Thank you to all the speakers who are there. We'll come back here. Let's go to Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Thank you so much. So I think the first thing, I just want to react to some of the comments. I went and uplift many of the comments of our stakeholders who called in. I actually strongly agree with this point that the GFPP has developed over many, many years a holistic, comprehensive, values-based approach to sustainable, equitable, and local food sourcing. I think one of my concerns about recommendation 1 and 2 in the current proposal is that it doesn't actually detail these values or define them at all. And I think it leaves open the very real possibility that we are giving county staff direction that's insufficient in order to achieve these goals around local sourcing, sustainable sourcing, and that is organic and regenerative and low carbon. And as I think my colleague Supervisor Anderson said, this is San Diego. It's warm year round. And if we can't do it here, I think we can't do it anywhere. So with that in mind, I would like to make the friendly amendment or offer the friendly amendment that we amend recommendation 1 to move forward with a sole source contract with the Good Food Purchasing Program as so many stakeholders have suggested.
Okay, hold on 1 second. So you want to amend recommendation number 1, not to add the things we heard from the public speakers that they would like included, but to award a sole source contract to one entity to do this work?
I would like to be very, very clearly, I'd like to respond to what the stakeholders have called in, saying that they would like to see included. And what I'm hearing from the stakeholders, from all those comments, I think we could have Andrew do a tally if we want to be sure. But what I heard from the stakeholders is that they'd like to see a sole source awarded to the Good Food Purchasing Program. Obviously, I think it would also be great to include references to the values that our stakeholders mentioned. I heard ensuring that a program is value-based, data-driven, includes elevated labor standards. I could kind of go back to my notes and list them, but what seemed simplest to me was to respond to the feedback from the stakeholders.
Okay, hold on 1 second, Vice Chair. I'll come right to you. We have procurement rules and processes that we go through to ensure that these things are done fairly, that they're done openly, that they're done transparently. There is zero chance I'm going to support on this dais that we're going to award a sole source, no bid contract to an entity that hasn't gone through that process. I'm sure they're wonderful folks, and I'm sure they know exactly what they're doing. And if such, then they ought to go through the normal procurement process that ensures transparency, that ensures people have the opportunity, that ensures that we do that. And so I think it is a very dangerous situation. There are occasions where sole source contracts are warranted. Amending them into something that is already underway without any of the normal procurement process is not something I'm comfortable with. But let me ask Vice Chair Vargas for her thoughts.
So that's actually what I was going to say. I mean, I am happy to look at the values and bring in those values and really create those opportunities, and then maybe open up the process as we're moving forward. But I really don't want us as this board to start creating a precedent where we are doing these sole procurements on the dais without, discussion and information from our staff and recommendations. I think that when we've made exceptions for sole procurement, there's been a lot of research and information and very specific recommendations from staff of how we've done that. So maybe, Chair, if there's a way to direct this piece of that back to staff. I mean, I think we need to do it now because.
I would actually accept. I think. Okay.
Supervisor, hold on. Here's what I'll propose, and I'll ask the seconder of the motion if you'd be okay, because I heard from stakeholders, and I think they made some really valid points about the approach that we need to make. And so what I would propose is that we would amend recommendation 1 to where add in under food sourcing programs that is value-based and data-driven, includes elevated labor standards, organic and regenerative certificates, low carbon intensity, and nutritional co-benefits. I would add that section in. I think that the stakeholders raised really good points about including that. And then in recommendation number 2, that I would authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to develop a sustainable, equitable, and local food sourcing policy and a related economic analysis and return to the board within 180 days for policy consideration and adoption. And I think the policy should connect health and human service efforts with county operations for climate sustainability planning. And so that would be my amendments to recommendation 1 and 2 to really take into account the stakeholder feedback and go forward with the process, again, that is open and transparent, but also gets us moving in that direction. And so I think that would address.
So Chair Fletcher, I think that's great. I actually think I would definitely support that approach. I think that gets to where we need to go. So I would withdraw my friendly amendment and strongly support your approach.
Let me ask the seconder of the motion if you're okay with that change.
Happy to second that motion.
All right, wonderful. Supervisor Anderson.
Great work, Chairman. That was, I had the same concerns you did, but I also liked what I heard. And I would have, when I read this, I just anticipated, and perhaps I got ahead of myself. I thought those things were included by the nature of what we were doing. But one of the things that popped up that in my mind was, why don't we make this a pilot for 2 years and come back and reevaluate? I hope you all can hear me. My computer just said I'm unstable, meaning my connection. But and when I say pilot, I don't mean that we'll kill it. I'm saying we'll come back, reevaluate it, make sure we're hitting the mark. If we're not, let's make adjustments to it. But that way, we're not just going without ever looking to see that we achieve the goal that we set out for. And I think that the benchmark that we've created for this are goals worth achieving. And I think that we should make sure that the people that benefit truly benefit.
What if we did this, Supervisor Anderson? What if we just had an annual report back on?
Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, okay.
And you know what? I get the first year, it may be more difficult. It may take 2 years before we see real benefit. It may be that the learning curve, I don't want to kill anything that's working or on its way to working.
Right. Wonderful. Okay, I'm happy to. Let me ask the seconder if you're okay. An annual report. Good.
Yes.
All right, Supervisor Desmond.
Well, thanks. I actually was in favor of the original motion, and I just want to make sure we get food to the people. This is kind of the overall arching thing, and we're kind of, we're putting in some agendas and policies in here. I'm just curious, from our CAO, based on what's been presented, is there any extra cost involved? Because I want to make sure this money goes to feeding people, and if there's any additional costs with the amendments, or it's probably too soon to tell, but is there any cost implications with the changes that have been proposed?
Thank you, Supervisor Desmond. The changes, I think, to recommendation 2 would allow us to look at the economic impacts down the road on this. And then recommendation number 1, we already have the $1 million identified in the board letter, which is consistent with the ARPA allocations. So I think we're covered on that, on both of those issues.
Well, any idea how labor laws or labor practices is that going to be more expensive or break even? I'm not sure.
When we come forward with the policy, we would be looking at all those economic impacts and bring that forward back in, I believe the amended motion was 180 days. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's correct.
Okay. Well, I'll be supporting. I just want to make sure, we want to get healthy food to people, and that's, I think, should be the overall goal. And just make sure we don't get mired down with other policies, I guess, while we're doing that. So, all right, I'll be supportive. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Yeah, I just wanted to take one last moment to thank everyone who has participated in this process so far. I know there's been a lot of stakeholder engagement and, really thoughtful work, and that's really guided where we're at. And I also want to thank the leadership of my colleagues who've been such good champions, particularly, moving this forward and thinking about how on the program itself that we are values-based and values-driven, and, we're centering that in the work. So thank you, Chair Fletcher, for that amendment, and I'm just really happy to support that today.
Thank you. So we've got a motion by myself, seconded by Vice Chair Vargas, to adopt the recommendations with the following change, adding into recommendation 1, local food source program that is value-based, data-driven, includes elevated labor standards, organic and regenerative certification, low carbon intensity, and nutritional co-benefits for the County of San Diego, and amends recommendation number 2 to authorize the Chief Administrative Officer to develop a sustainable, equitable, and local food sourcing policy and a related economic analysis, and return to the board with 180 days for policy consideration and adoption. The policy shall connect HHSA efforts with county operations for climate sustainability planning, and then adding in an additional recommendation to just have an annual update to the board on the broader efforts around community gardens and food sustainability. With that, we have a motion and a second. Let me ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson?
Aye.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer?
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond?
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas?
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher?
Fletcher, aye.
The motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
All right, we're going to go to our next agenda item 17, addressing anticipated shortages of public safety officers in the San Diego region. This was an item brought forward by Supervisors Anderson and Desmond. Let me ask them first if they would like to make any introductory comments before we go to the public speakers in this item.
I would.
Please, you and
okay.
then right. You can like arm wrestle for who goes first. It doesn't matter to me, but you're both welcome to have at it.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Last year, the San Diego Police Officers Association in September did a poll, and they found that when they instituted the vaccine mandate, 45% of the officers said that they would rather be fired than comply. When I was vice chair of public safety in the state legislature, what many people didn't understand, and I didn't know until I got there, was that we have a regional mutual aid agreement, just like firefighters do, where we send firefighters to LA to put out fires when it's an emergency in LA and in Fresno, and everyone else will send firefighters down to help us fight the fire. The Sheriff's Department is the regional mutual aid coordinator. So if a local law enforcement doesn't have enough officers, we potentially could backfill it. Well, we've seen a 14% surge in violent crime. We've seen a 15% in the last 2 years attrition rate at our sheriff's department, here just our own local sheriffs. And then we've also, over the last year, seen a decrease of 25% in the amount of folks that are applying to become a deputy sheriff. So my concern, and I don't want to speak for Supervisor Desmond, but I think he shares this, was that we maybe, sometime in the near future, be caught with not enough deputies, not enough officers, and I'm deeply concerned that we're not going to have the coverage. And, I live in rural San Diego County, unincorporated. We rely on those sheriffs, and it's so important that those deputies are there for us when we need them most. And I also represent a large portion, more of San Diego City than I ever did before. And I know that those residents that we reached out to, in fact, we did a quick poll out into my district, over 700 people responded, and 99% of them said that they were deeply concerned about their public safety. They wanted to know that when they went to bed at night, that they would wake up safely in the morning and that their families would be safe. So instead of waiting until things get worse or an emergency occurs, I wanted to get out ahead of it. So essentially what this is doing is asking to work with the Sheriff's Department, our CAO, come up with a plan in 180 days or sooner, and just be ahead of the curve. Make sure that we have, that we're prepared on the public safety side. Now, having said that, I think it's important to distinguish, because I know that a lot of the folks in my district are going to call my office. So I just want to make sure they know that the sheriffs are not mandated to get a vaccine. However, if they don't get vaccinated, they have to have weekly tests. And I think that that's reasonable, and I support that. But everybody in my district deserves to feel safe and to be safe. And that's what this is about. It's about ensuring that we have enough deputies and enough officers on the street available to protect us. And by the way, this is not just about sworn officers, but non-sworn too. We have a lot of folks that do the backup, that support the deputies and the officers in the streets. We need to make sure that no harm comes to any of our constituents that can be avoided. So that's essentially it in a nutshell.
Thank you. Supervisor Desmond.
If that was a motion, I'll second it.
All right, we'll take that as a motion in a second.
Well, I just want to say thank you very much, Supervisor Anderson, for your work on this board letter and for asking me to partner on this. It's simple. We got a fiduciary responsibility to the contract cities. We've got Del Mar, Encinitas, Imperial Beach, Lemon Grove, Poway, San Marcos, Santee, Solana Beach, and Vista, all are contract cities with the sheriff's deputies, including all those that we serve in the unincorporated areas. And we have to ensure that we have adequate and proper staffing for sworn and non-sworn personnel. Supervisor Anderson mentioned violent crime is on the rise by double digits, and it's imperative that we retain and recruit sheriff's deputies to maintain our obligated staffing levels. I was asked, are we safe now? Yes, I think we're safe now, but we don't want to get to that critically low level to where, we're below what we need to keep people safe. So public safety it's critical to the citizens of our county, and taking the time to do this staffing assessment to help guide us in future decisions, I think is a great idea, and I'll double second my motion. So thank you. The motion.
All right, so we've got a motion by Supervisor Anderson, second by Supervisor Desmond. Let me ask clerk to call forward the speakers, and then when we come back, we'll go first to Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. We have 25 requests to speak on this item by phone. Also note for the record that we received 36 e-comments, 12 in favor, 15 in opposition, and 3 neutral. Any members of the public that requested to speak on item 17 by phone, please dial into the conference line now using the instructions that were provided to you. When it is your turn to speak, you will be unmuted and you will hear a recording that will tell you to begin your comments after the beep. You'll have 2 minutes to address the board. We'll ask you to please begin by stating your name for the audio record. I'll remind the callers that they should mute their TV or live video stream before they begin speaking. We'll begin with our first caller.
Hi, my name is Karen Vogt, and I have a question. I heard, I'm calling in support of item 17. I had a question. I heard Supervisor Anderson say that vaccines are not mandated for the Sheriff's Department. Is that correct? So I will just go ahead and say that that is wonderful to hear, and I'm calling in support of item 17, and that if the vaccines are mandated for our county sheriff's department, that we should actually follow the example of LA County Sheriff Alex Villanueva, who has vowed not to enforce the mandates. Again, thank you, Supervisors Anderson and Desmond, for this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller.
Mike Borello. America is facing yet another crisis of epic proportion, a crisis again perpetuated by public officials that bludgeon the constituents they were elected to serve. The threat of medical freedoms are now transgressing into the threat of financial solvency. Soon we'll see a spike in the homeless population as many losing their jobs over an unwanted medical treatment will no longer be able to make their mortgage payment or pay rent, let alone feed their kids. Job loss combined with Bidenflation spells disaster for the wellness of many San Diegans. And this Board of Supervisors isn't doing a damn thing to address the root cause. You rather propose to fill missing ranks with scabs. People are flooding the streets worldwide, realizing that COVID is now endemic. They know the vaccines are not safe, and they are no longer effective in preventing or stopping the spread of COVID. They know it's all been a scam for control from the beginning. The evidence is being revealed. Some governments are now moving to free their citizens from the scamdemic. But San Diego persists with the fake state of emergency. You are too greedy to abandon Biden's pipeline of COVID cash pouring into the county. While this proposal might be a good backup plan in general, you are not addressing the immediate root cause. You are the co-architects of this shortage by the county health policies that no longer make sense. You want the right solution, the compassionate solution? Give these people their job back.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning, Supervisors. My name is David Leonardi. I'm the president of the Deputy Sheriff's Association of San Diego County. On behalf of the DSA, I'd like to thank Supervisors Anderson and Desmond for placing this item on the agenda. The Sheriff's Department is experiencing the most challenging staffing shortage in the past 30 years. Unfortunately, there's good reason to believe these challenges are getting worse and not better. We're struggling to recruit and hire qualified candidates. In 2011, only 10 years ago, the Sheriff's Department in San Diego County had 19,978 applicants. In 2021, only 5,372 people applied to become a deputy sheriff. That's nearly a 75% decline. In our county jails, the staffing emergency is so bad, our deputies have been placed on a mandatory overtime directive that mandates they work at least 2 and sometimes 3 overtime shifts each pay period. In many cases, they aren't even able to get vacation days approved to spend with their families. This is resulting in overworked, stressed out deputies, a vast decline in morale, and significantly more retirements than normal. A proactive plan to avoid staffing shortages is critical to public safety. We urge the Sheriff's Department and CAO to provide a comprehensive analysis, including consideration of retention programs that have been utilized in Fresno and elsewhere to smooth the impact of staffing shortages by extending the careers of existing deputies or existing officers in those places who are eligible for retirement. The DSA looks forward to working together with the county and the Sheriff's Department to find appropriate solutions that will allow us to continue to provide the highest level of public safety services to the residents of San Diego County. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller. For the next caller, your device might be muted. We can't hear you. It's Jackie McCarroll.
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Perfect. Good morning. My name is Jackie McCarroll, San Diego resident, registered nurse, and proud advocate for medical freedom. I find this item perplexing as the most reasonable resolution is being avoided. Although I support recruitment and retention efforts for law enforcement, I feel that this has been a long-standing issue for our county. This is not a new public safety concern, and the way in which mandates further impact this problem is one that the public has been warning about for months. So I'm dismayed that this agenda item isn't emergently calling to revise and overturn the city's vaccination mandate. Eliminating the mandates would alleviate additional staff shortages today. And although this is not a comprehensive solution, it is nothing short of negligent to not incorporate this element into today's discussion and resolution. In short, stop the mandates. And I'll end with this. The corruption surrounding the NIH, the NIAID, the CDC, FDA, and yes, our local public health department is finally being, albeit slowly, disclosed to the public. It won't be long before the U.S. reaches medical transparency. And with that, I urge every American, including the board and our local public health officials, to watch Senator Ron Johnson's recent Washington, D.C. Senate roundtable titled COVID-19, A Second Opinion. The discussion is led by both scientific and medical elite. It outlines the gross mismanagement of this pandemic. This is the information that public safety measures should be based upon. It lends insight into the blatant corruption of our governing health agencies, and in my opinion, provides the most comprehensive public health information we have to date. You can find it on Rumble, you can find it on Highwire, and nationandstate.com. I not only suggest you watch it in its 5-hour entirety, but implore you to share it with everyone you know. Freedom will win. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller.
Estadounidenses Nathan Fletcher, Terra y Nora no están honrando la Constitución de los Estados Unidos. Déjenme decirles que todos serán procesados por crímenes contra la humanidad y serán arrestados.
Okay, un momentito, señora, tengo que interpretar. I just need to let you know that everybody is just going to be found guilty for these crimes and will be arrested. Adelante, señora.
María.
Ok, María.
COVID es una mentira y le da a la gente sus trabajos porque la gente se está yendo de San Diego muy rápido.
Okay.
La mitad de las personas que conozco se fueron de San Diego y fueron a estados que creen en los estados de valores estadounidenses y es absolutamente repugnante como los antiestadounidenses nazan.
Ok, un momentito, señora, un momento. Un momento, señora, la tengo que parar. I'm just saying that everything is a lie regarding the jobs here in San Diego. I know so many people that are leaving San Diego and going to other places in the United States because they are, overwhelmed because of what's happening here in San Diego. Adelante, señora.
Es una mentira y le da a la gente sus trabajos porque la gente se está yendo de San Diego muy rápido. La mitad de las personas que conozco se fueron.
And this is all a lie. Everybody's leaving San Diego, because of the job situation. Half of the people that I know have left San Diego. Señora.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Good morning. My name is Jared Wilson, and I'm the president of the San Diego Police Officers Association. In the last 6 months, over 100 officers have left the SDPD, and as of this week, our sworn staffing dropped below 1,900 officers. After years of poor staffing, it took a 25% raise and years of aggressive recruiting to get us back on track, which has now been wiped out in 6 months by a vaccine mandate compiled with low pay. An example of low staffing is in Northeastern Division, which borders several sheriff stations. The division spans from Scripps Ranch to Rancho Bernardo and is home to over 250,000 residents. It has 10 police beats, but with low staffing levels, there are routinely entire police beats going unstaffed. Northeastern Division deploys a similar amount of units as the Poway Sheriff Station does during the average shift, despite Northeastern Division being double in geographic size and 5 times the population, and despite the sheriff's own retention and recruiting issues. This is dangerous and it's unacceptable. It will create additional mutual aid requests upon the Sheriff Department, and rising violent crime in the city of San Diego will spill over into our city to other jurisdictions. In the Poway synagogue shooting, it was SDPD officers that apprehended the suspect. He fled into our city. Those officers might not be around for the next shooting if we don't reverse course. We cannot continue to lose officers at this rate and be effective at our mission. And I appreciate the Board of Supervisors bringing this to the attention today. And it's tough times, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Morning, Board of Supervisors. My name is Luke Weingarten. I just want to call out the ridiculous nature of the double standard that exists here. Now, the sheriffs and the police departments all operate within the same jurisdiction in the county. Of course, the sheriffs have the jurisdiction over the entire county, and different municipalities have their own police station and police officers. Why within the same geographic area would you have certain law enforcement officers are required to get the jab while sheriffs are not? I mean, that's about as simple as it gets. Shouldn't everybody, we're all people, we all have the same likelihood of giving or getting this supposed disease to each other? Why are the sheriffs immune? They don't need the vaccination, but the police officers are not? I mean, come on. You guys are absolutely ridiculous. That's all I got. Oh, God wins.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Ok, puede comenzar a hablar.
Good morning, San Diego Supervisors. I'm Manuel Gomez from the North San Diego Business Chamber. I'm asking the Board Supervisors to please vote yes and support the item 17. We must address the anticipated shortage of the public safety officers for the following reasons. According to the California Policy Lab, California is experiencing a 20% increase in motor vehicle theft. California homicide rate is increasing in 31%, and aggravated assault is increasing by 9%. According with the Public Policy Institute of California, San Diego is one of the counties that is experiencing an increase in violent crime rates. The numbers show a trend across the state, and if we don't take actions to prevent these problems, inflation, the post-pandemic crisis, the mental health issues, and the economic pressure will cause our public safety to get out of control. Thank you.
Thank you. Now hear from the next caller.
Audra, so quite interesting. You guys act like you're solving a problem when it's your own mandates and things that you're implementing in the county that are forcing this to happen. You could stop the city from putting down this mandate and save those officers' jobs, but you don't want to do that. You are actually causing a public safety risk by not doing that. And now you want to implement the sheriff, which is quite interesting because the sheriff is bought and paid for by you guys. They do everything you want. So when all of these officers are going to be gone and are gone, and now there is a public safety issue You're going to implement people who do your bidding, who will force this upon the people, who will go to everybody's homes like they want and make them vaccinate. I mean, Nathan, I know you're going to appoint a new sheriff here on the 3rd after Gore retires. And quite interesting, I guarantee you that you're going to put in the guy that doesn't want us to have guns. That way, they can come to our houses and do whatever they want with us. You should be stopping the mandate from going down. You don't even have enough officers in the sheriff's department to make up for the lack of officers in the police department. So where does that leave us? The military, the UN, what is it? The National Guard? Who are you going to send in next? This is all a plan of you guys to take control of the people. And if people can't see that, you need to wake up, because what they're doing is not good. They should be stopping this from even happening in the first place. But all you guys want to do is create problems and offer a solution. Like, let me slit your wrist and give you a Band-Aid. It's ridiculous. So wake up, people, because they're going to come after us. They're going to come after our guns. That means whoever is sheriff next needs to be constitutional, because those sheriffs that are in there right now are not constitutional sheriffs. They are not abiding by their oath, and they are not doing right by the people. And Joel, you want to protect the people, or you want to protect yourself?
Time is up. Thank you. We'll now go to the next caller.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Castle, CEO of the Lakeside Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of Lakeside, we are asking you to please support our law enforcement agencies. Do not make demands that will create a shortage of officers. Now is not the time to see a reduction in law enforcement while crimes are on the uprise. Work with the sheriffs to increase recruitment and create strategies that support our law enforcement, who are critical to protect San Diego for both our unincorporated and unincorporated residents. Do not give other agencies and cities the opportunity to entice our officers to abandon San Diego County, leaving us short-staffed and unprotected. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll now hear from our next caller.
Good afternoon, Board of Supervisors. My name is Deborah Rosen. I'm the President and CEO for the North San Diego Business Chamber. I'm calling in to support item number 17. San Diego County has recently experienced a 14% surge in violent crime. We can't afford to have a shortage of public safety officers. Safe communities can help ensure a robust economy. Smash and grab retail crimes hurt our local businesses and commerce, and having a fully staffed police force keeps us safe. The news headlines are now saying FBI brought in to assist sheriffs with high-end home burglaries. This seems to be on the rise. Another headline today states, police increase surveillance but admit to being understaffed as brazen home entries put folks on guard. Law and order protects the most vulnerable in our communities. Public safety officers are our first responders, and we need them to be there for us when we call 911. Thank you for listening to me, and I support item number 17.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Becky Hofsteth, item number 17. Here we are experiencing alarming repercussions of egregious mandates, which have effectively both depleted and exhausted our frontline workers. San Diego's rising crime and chronic understaffing demonstrates that infringement of medical freedoms is inextricably linked to unsafe communities, and that mandates have undermined the Living Safely initiative, that is, to improve the quality of life of all San Diegans. If you would have us believe your intentions have been noble, and that the public safety has indeed been your first priority, only a change of course would prove that. Now is your opportunity in good faith to pivot in light of new evidence and developments. As we watch Floridians enjoy their freedom and just recently England lift all mandates, as we see lessening concern over ever-changing variants, learn the diminishing returns of vaccines, including efficacy, durability, and mounting adverse events, it is obvious the strategy of mandating jabs for the greater good is now obsolete. How can it be otherwise? when the CDC confirms viral titers in the vaccine and vax are the same, and transmission is ramping up in two of the most highly vaxxed countries in the world, Israel and Gibraltar. And Wilna, have you updated the board with CDC's confirmation that natural immunity is indeed stronger than vaccines? Are you aware that the former director of the FDA and current board member of Pfizer, Dr. Gottlieb, has spoken out about the need to end mandates? Will you listen to this dyed-in-the-wool vax advocate who is saying, quote, "It is time to relax these measures with the same speed that we put them in place," unquote. Supervisors, it is time past time to change course and relinquish the ground that was never yours to take. You have been tasked with stewarding this beautiful place we each call home. Countless freedom-loving San Diegans will continue to hold you accountable until our God-given freedoms once more hold sway. Do the right thing.
Thank you. Now hear from our next caller.
Diane A. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
You hear me?
Yes, we
Diane
can.
A.
We can hear you. Please proceed.
I support the item. It's so obvious that the vaccination mandates have created such a huge shortage, and police are reporting that there was a lot of officers out sick, especially the beginning of the year and the end of last month, and most all of them were vaccinated. So Todd Gloria's one of his reasons for having the vaccination mandate is he wanted to prevent all these people being out sick who weren't vaccinated, but most of the people were vaccinated who are sick. So that just takes care of that. So it'd be really important for the county to pressure the city to remove the vaccination mandates for the police, and also for you to remove your mandate for new hires. The solution is so simple, and I think it's pretty obvious. And if you keep your vaccination mandate for new hires, what do you think is going to happen here in the county areas, in the unincorporated areas, and there where the sheriffs serve? The same thing. It's not rocket science. So please just do the right thing. You know what it is. It's really obvious. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. We'll now hear from the next caller.
Hello, my name is Christina, and I am basically asking you guys to drop any vaccine mandates for new hires. That goes for new sheriffs, county employees as well, and reach out to the city of San Diego and ask them to drop their vaccine mandates for new hires and current employees, and then you resolve the problem. You saw what happened with the Supreme Court. OSHA didn't go through. That means the liability goes to you, the employers. And that includes requiring such a vaccine requirement for new hires. If somebody is injured as a result of taking the COVID vaccine or dies, as a result, that liability goes to the County of San Diego because you're discriminating against people from even applying for that job without that requirement. And so the liability goes to you. And first of all, we don't want to cause that kind of force or coercion on people for their own personal medical decisions. It's just wrong, both morally and legally. And we don't want to incur such a financial cost. So in your fiscal impact, look at the big red negative fiscal impact that all those lawsuits would have, incur. So remove the vaccine mandates, restore bodily autonomy. It's a basic human right. It's common sense, like everybody's telling you. You're not getting this from the right or the left. You're getting this from everybody. We're all asking you to please respect our ability to choose what goes in our own bodies. In addition to that, I am asking you to, again, look at VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. The amount of injuries and deaths correlated with the COVID vaccines are excessive. And also look at the website, normorsilence.world. It has a lot of information that you guys should be really looking at in making this decision. And if, causing our city to go corrupt.
Thank you. Your time is up. We'll now hear from the next caller.
This is Dean. I just wanted to speak about the vaccine mandates and the testing. First of all, to have vaccine mandates that are causing us to lose police officers is crazy, because you say you're saving lives by mandating the vaccine, but what about the person who gets hit by a drunk driver or gets attacked by a criminal or something like that? We can't terrorize our police officers with a testing requirement to coerce them into having a vaccine, because then one day when the police officers are in a bad mood from having their test because maybe their nose got hurt, then they could take it out on somebody else, because police officers are human after all. We have a medical freedom initiative, and overall most people are signing the initiative. About more than 95% signed the initiative, and this is outside Target or Walmart or places like that. So overall, most people want medical freedom. They don't want mandates forcing police officers or nurses or anybody to lose their job because they didn't take a vaccine that they didn't want to. Additionally, the Pfizer CEO came out and said that the vaccine has a low efficacy, if any at all. So why would we mandate something that even the CEO of Pfizer says is dangerous? Thank you. Or not dangerous, but doesn't have much efficacy. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. And Chair Fletcher, that concludes public comment on this item.
All right. We've got a motion and a second. Let me go to Vice Chair Vargas.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher. So I appreciate all the efforts to keep our community safe, but I think this board letter is a little premature and is missing information that we need to make an informed decision. I'm a little concerned that the public is being misguided about our policies as it relates to the Sheriff's Department and vaccines. And having said that, the board letter is being presented just as there's a shift in leadership in the Sheriff's Department. In November, a new sheriff will be elected by its citizens of San Diego, and the voters and the new elected sheriff should have a chance to define the vision for the Sheriff's Department, including staffing. Our Sheriff's Department has been under scrutiny, and rightfully so, for our handling of persons in our custody, and this concerns me when we know that there is many shortcomings in the department that would help alleviate the stress of the system as a whole. Honestly, our criminal justice system and policing systems need a fundamental change where humane, restorative, and rehabilitative justice, as well as effective public safety, are prioritized. If we really truly want to address public safety, we need to look at the ways we can invest in locally developed equity-based solutions that take a balanced approach to protecting public safety, including diversion, drug treatment, re-entry programs, mental health services. And I think that as a county, we've made some strides. But in order to truly address public safety, we must ensure comprehensive support of other public safety partners, Probation Department, Public Defender's Office, and our county-funded youth programs that focus on intervention in the forthcoming assessment. So these agencies and programs are crucial partners in our public safety and are often overlooked. They are similarly in need of funding and recruitment and retention efforts. So in order for us to address public safety, then we must do so in a holistic approach for the county efforts to make our community safer. The only way I can support this board letter is to ask if there is a willingness to accept a friendly amendment to include the Probation Department, Public Defender's Office, and our county-funded youth programs in the forthcoming assessment. The amendment would be direct the Chief Administrative Officer to return to the board in 180 days or as soon as practical with updates and recommendations related to recruitment planning and funding strategies that support the Sheriff's Department, Probation Department, Public Defender's Office, and our county-funded youth intervention programs, having the critical personnel necessary to protect San Diego County's incorporated and unincorporated residents.
Let me go to the maker of the motion. Are you willing to accept the amendment to add probation, public defenders, and county-funded youth services?
I have a helicopter overhead. Hold on for just a second.
Wait a minute.
You probably can hear me, but it's hard to hear you. So, look, I think that every one of those departments is important. I think that that is crucial. I absolutely support making sure that they're fully funded, but they're not under mutual aid. They're not, when we think in terms of an increase in crime in our communities, we have a 14% surge in violent crime. They're part of the solution after they're in the system or avoiding the system.
I would
That's why they're super important, and I absolutely support. What I'd like to do is I'd like to do a board letter with you, Supervisor Vargas, because I think they're equally important. But there's a distinction between mutual aid and not mutual aid. And these don't have anything to do with mutual aid, but they're equally important. And I think that they should, instead of confusing the issue, not getting through any of it, I'd love to do a second letter with you to address them in their individual needs completely. So I'm 100% on board. The other thing is, perhaps we could ask the CAO. So the sheriff really doesn't control them, and having the sheriff involved on a board letter with them is, in the legislature, you had to keep all your legislation on the same. You couldn't do something on parks and on healthcare and on, it all had to be in the same venue. So I'd love to do that with the others because they don't have regional mutual aid. But you know what? Let's ask our CAO.
Actually, just for clarification, they all fall under the same department under public safety. And so I think when we bring the budget forth, they all come under public safety. So I understand that you're not comfortable with accepting those amendments. And if you can't, that's fine. I don't want to do a separate board letter. This is what I would recommend, because I think what we're doing here is we're not looking at the root of the problem, which is addressing crime. So staffing the sheriff's department is not addressing crime. The way we're going to address crime is to look at the root of the problem. And the challenge is that what we're doing is we're saying to people right now is that, if you hear the comments of folks who are sharing with us, is that they're addressing vaccinations to the lack of recruitment and et cetera. And those are apples and oranges, right? I served on the board of Southwestern College where we actually focused on recruitment and retention and we had a great partnership with all of our police departments and sheriffs. And I have been a big proponent of ensuring that we always had, our police officers from our communities, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not opposed to that. And I'm not opposed to ensuring that we have adequate staffing. But what I want to do is I want this board to do the right thing and to begin to look at the justice system from a lens of really a holistic perspective. And if we're going to do that, we need to look at an assessment of an overall of how we are actually looking at the criminal justice system. And that includes probation, the public defenders, and our youth intervention program. So totally understand different philosophies, different values. So I'm not able to support the board letter, but I understand your comments.
Let me just ask quickly.
Nathan, I wasn't finished.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
I didn't want to interrupt Supervisor Vargas, but I wasn't finished when she jumped in. And I get it's an emotional issue and you want to get there. I'm not opposed to this. I support restorative justice. I think that what you're talking about is different than what I'm talking about in the sense that I live in an unincorporated area. I have constituents in an unincorporated area that shouldn't feel unsafe at night because there's no deputy to show up when they call 911. And so this is about making sure that there's deputies to show up under 911. It's not about the justice system. And I'm happy to look. And that's why, doing a separate letter, I'm all in. I absolutely support that. But what I wanted to finish with is I will gladly accept these amendments to get you there because I want to work as a team and I don't want to seem like a bully. And I'm not going to be bullying you on anything that I'm trying to do. If I can get there, I want to get there. Why don't we ask the CAO right now if she can accomplish both goals in the same letter without diluting the fact. And by the way, facts are facts. The fact that the city of San Diego has chosen to force mandate their employees, and we haven't forced our employees, changes the outcome. But at the end of the day, with under mutual aid, we have to backstop them. So we need to have a plan to backstop them. I'm not saying what they're doing is right or wrong. They were elected in their districts. I wasn't. However, when it impacts my constituents in their personal safety, I have a fiduciary responsibility. I'm not sure fiduciary is the correct term. I have a public safety responsibility. So with that in mind, let's ask Helen, or the CAO, and ask her if she can accomplish both goals. But at the end of the day, I don't want to lose you, but at the same token, I'm doing this based on the regional mutual aid agreement. And none of those other groups have mutual aid, and none of the other groups fall under while it's public safety, it's not the sheriff's responsibilities. So, Chair Fletcher, maybe
let's ask the CAO if we could accomplish both of these goals, both the suggestions Vice Chair Vargas has made about what to add, along with the intent behind Supervisor Anderson's initial effort.
Thank you, Chair Fletcher and Supervisor Anderson and Vice Chair Vargas. We will definitely be able to do that, notwithstanding what Supervisor Anderson wants. We understand that, the mutual aid aspect. We can address that and also address the probation and the public defender request of the Vice Chair.
Child Youth Services. Okay. So Supervisor Anderson, you're comfortable adding those in, consistent with what the CAO just outlined, that we would add in to also analyze and look at recruiting and retention for public defenders, probation, and county youth services?
I am comfortable doing it. I support restorative justice. I want to look at it in a holistic way, but I don't want to dilute the fear that is in my district that we're not going to have deputies who show up when we call 911.
But I think to the CAO's point, that we can accomplish both.
I agree.
Let me ask the seconder of the motion too. Are you okay accepting the friendly amendment Supervisor Anderson has agreed to accept?
Yeah, but I guess my only concern, can we do the sheriff's first and then get that report out and then do the rest of them? Is kind of, I don't want to slow it down. And I agree. I actually is okay with Supervisor Vargas's motion, but is that going to, I don't want to.
I would think, let's ask our CAO if they can accomplish them at the same speed simultaneous, just having a few more folks work on it, if that's possible.
Chair Fletcher, Holly Porter, Public Safety Group. Yes, we can come back at the same time with that. We have the vacancy rates for the Public Safety Group departments, and we can work with Human Resources to address actions that we can take that will improve those situations.
Well, if I may finish, I just want to make sure that you can bring them all back at the same time, but by doing them all, is that going to slow you down on the sheriff's portion of it? Because I'd like to get that as soon as possible.
Supervisor Desmond, I think we can work with Human Resources and look at actions that we can take, across the board in all of those departments simultaneously. In terms of recruitment and retention efforts.
Supervisor Desmond.
Down, I guess.
Helen.
Hey, instead of slicing the elephant, we're eating it all at once, I guess. The way I'm looking at it.
Supervisor Desmond, let me just jump in here and assure you that we will accommodate the schedule. We will not delay.
Okay, that's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Good. Okay, so we've got a amended motion and second. Let's go to Supervisor Wasserman-Reamer.
I have a number of comments to make. I first just really wanted to begin with some questions to staff based on the board letter. Much of the board letter looked at the challenges that the city of San Diego is facing. And obviously we're not the city of San Diego, right? We're the county with our sheriffs and face my understanding is that our sheriffs have been doing a great job with recruitment and retention in the past. And there's just only one little mention that actually directly addressed the sheriff's department as opposed to the city of San Diego in the board letter. It mentioned that we've had a 15% decline, a 15% increase in retirement and a 25% decline in applications. But that didn't necessarily translate to me that we actually have a recruitment and retention problem in the sheriff's department. So I think obviously, it's public safety is vitally important. And I want to say a few other comments after this, but I just want to make sure that we're actually focused on a problem that exists here at the county, as opposed to a problem with the city of San Diego. So this is a question for staff. And if the answer is we don't know, then I would just like to ensure that an assessment of whether or not we have a recruitment and retention problem is included in that report back, so that we don't assume the answer to the question.
Thank you, Supervisor Lawson-Raymer. I had an opportunity to look at that pretty closely last night after our discussion that you and I had yesterday. And we do have some significant issues. Holly, would you like to report out on some of the data for the supervisor?
Sure, thank you, Helen. Supervisor Lawson-Raymer, if you look at the hiring statistics for the Sheriff's Department over the last couple of years, and I think this really highlights what they're concerned about, attrition has exceeded the number of individuals that they've been able to hire in the past 2 years. And they're also concerned about the number of applicants that they're getting in, which has decreased really significantly over the past few years. So for example, if you compare 2021, the number of applications that they received, it's 40% less than they received in 2016, or 36% less, for example, than they received in 2017. So fewer people are applying. And looking at the trend over the past couple of years, again, with more people leaving than they're getting in the door. It is a lengthy process, 12 to 14 months to get a deputy, boots on the ground because of the academy and the training that's involved. And so they're seeing trends that are concerning.
Great. I really thank you so much. That's extremely helpful, and I really appreciate you taking the time to provide some more information. I just want to appreciate the issues brought up in this board letter, and also uplift my colleague Supervisor Vargas's amendment, which I strongly support. I think everyone deserves to feel safe in their communities, and this means ensuring that the people who serve in our communities are adequately equipped, that we have recruitment, we have retention, and we have adequate staffing. And that is a fact across all of our individuals who are in the front lines on public safety. And, when we look at how do we protect our communities and ensure an adequate staffing, there's lots of ways, right? One of them is to do what we've been doing with this board over the last year, which is to make sure we have mobile crisis response teams so that officers are not called to things that they shouldn't be called in, but they're actually able to respond to crimes in their communities. And so some of this work is also looking at ensuring that we're adequately staffed across the board in terms of our mental and behavioral health, in addition to our patrols on the streets, so we can keep our patrol officers focused on the right things. But some of this is also, as Supervisor Vargas correctly pointed out, ensures that we're being staffed in probation, in public defenders, because another way that we keep people safe is ensuring that they don't commit crimes in the first place. And that is a very vital component of public safety. I mean, there's one thing to run to the fire to put it out after the fire's already been lit. But I personally would strongly agree with Supervisor Vargas that it is preferable to prevent the fire from being started in the first place. And I think that's what she's getting at. And I think that this approach of trying to, get ahead of our recruitment and retention problems in a holistic way across all of the individuals who are committed to serving our communities and keeping our communities safe, it makes a lot of sense. And I know that I strongly support doing what we can to protect public safety in a holistic way. And I appreciate both the makers of the original motion as well as my colleague with her amendment. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We've got a motion by Supervisor Anderson, second by Supervisor Desmond. And, I think we've had a good discussion here as a board. Look, there's real concerns about keeping communities safe. And as a county, we want to keep people safe. We have continued to fund law enforcement. We've also taken efforts and actions to fund restorative justice and preventive things and efforts to do both, because you can and you have to do both. But there are real staffing issues that are taking place across law enforcement, and I think that the numbers bear that out as a reality. And so we want to do whatever we can to look at what can be done to better serve and protect, both protecting people from violent crime and structurally looking at how we can invest and things upstream to lower the conditions and situations later. And so I think we're taking a holistic approach at this, and I appreciate all the discussion, the changes, the initial item brought forward and everything. And I think we're in a very good place as a board to send a strong signal about keeping our community safe and investing in our communities at the same time. So with that, we've got a motion and a second. Let me ask the clerk to call the roll.
Thank you. Supervisor Anderson.
Aye.
Supervisor Lawson-Remer.
Aye.
Supervisor Desmond.
Aye.
Vice Chair Vargas.
Vargas, aye.
Chair Fletcher.
Fletcher, aye.
The motion passes unanimously with all supervisors being present and voting aye.
It is just about noon. We've got 3 items remaining. I think we will break for lunch at this time, give everyone, staff a chance to break and get a lunch. We will reconvene at 12:45. We will reconvene 12:45. We will knock out our remaining items and then go into closed session. So we will see you all then.